When we had broke, we were talking about your travel and the travel of the Jeep after the shooting, correct?
Correct.
In terms of your movement, you told us that the Jeep had gone, I'm going to take this out of the shiny gloss. You told us the Jeep had gone on Phelps up to Cole, and you were here, and that's where you saw it turn on Waite?
Correct.
Were you able to kind of see across here to watch the Jeep?
Yeah, you can't see from this aerial view, but there's just like a fence, and there's nothing else there. It's just bushes. So you can see almost that whole street there on Waite from where I was sitting.
By the way, really quick, I'm pretty sure the vehicle that Lori and Chad pulled up to like their storage unit, they were in a Jeep. So once again, every single detail just points directly at them, and they still went around town just trying to execute their family members. This is absolutely ridiculous, beyond ridiculous.
Which direction was your car facing? Towards Fry or away from Fry?
My nose was pointed towards Fry.
Okay. So you were able to see the Jeep then continue and turn down this street?
Correct.
After that, did you see the Jeep again?
I didn't.
Where did you go? What was your return route back to your house?
I did a U-turn there on Cole, and then I turned onto Waite, and I drove down Waite, and then back onto Phelps.
So sort of following the path of the Jeep as well until you got to Phelps?
Yeah, and then I just pulled into my driveway.
Oh my God, the fear he must have felt driving down the same path as his failed assassin. I would be terrified.
And then I sat and waited for an officer.
Were you on with 911 during that whole time?
I was.
Share defense. Exhibits 4, 9, 13, and 14.
I think we're going to hear the phone call.
When you came back to your house, well, let me ask you, I want to ask you some distance. When you first arrived at your house and you saw that Jeep, you told us you'd never seen it before. Can you tell us approximately how far away you were from the back of that Jeep when you heard that gunshot?
Well, you could kind of see in that map, there's only two houses. I was at the end of the first house, and the driveway was on the end half of my house. So I was past the point of my house and moving towards that driveway. So I would probably say a few feet, 15 feet or 10 feet or something like that was the distance.
Do you recall ever saying maybe 20 or so feet?
I'm sure I could have. It was a long time ago.
I'm so glad that Chad is a bad shot. If you remember when they talked about his ex-wife, when they were breaking down all of the crimes that they committed, Chad actually tried a very similar thing with his ex-wife. And the first time around, he completely missed. Like, he tried to do pretty much the same thing he did here to Brandon. And so in true coward fashion, he just poisoned his ex-wife.
I've shown the defendant exhibits 4, 9, 13, and 14, if I can have my paralegal approach with these exhibits. You can take a look at those and let me know if they depict Phelps Street and the house you rented, as well as some cones to represent different things in the street.
Yes,
Do you recognize all of those?
I do.
State will move to admit 4, 9, 13, and 14.
Any objection?
No objection.
4, 9, 13, and 14
13 and 14.
are admitted.
I wonder if we're going to hear the 911 call.
I'm going to start with 4. In this photograph, we see a police car down here. Is this your car here?
It is.
So is this the street that when you're turning down Phelps, you're talking about coming from this end?
Yes.
So you passed one house and your house is the second house.
Correct.
Okay.
Dude, look at how narrow So he said it was right in front of the white van. So the white van is still here. So basically that Jeep had to have been right around this area where my mouse is. And I'd imagine, oh my God, like when you just look at it, once again, I'm just glad he was a bad shot. That is crazy, terrifying.
And that's the white van that was parked there.
Okay. So we have another photo. Let me first kind of go here. In this photograph, is this your residence? And this is Exhibit 9.
Yes,
Okay. And this is your driveway.
correct. It's on the outside
And
edge.
so is this the area? Well, let me ask you, where was the Jeep parked?
You can see just the front of the white van's bumper there. It literally, the bumper of the Jeep was touching that van's bumper. It was just right on top of it. So the back of the Jeep would have been right where your pin point is right now.
Okay, so right at the edge of your driveway?
Correct.
And I'm going to use 13 and then 14 to give us kind of, we'll go back and forth between them. So in 14 here, is this the white vehicle you were talking about?
Yes,
And this shaded area between the Jeep and the driveway is where you're discussing that the Jeep was parked?
correct.
And then this is your driveway.
Yes,
The rear of the Jeep was facing you.
correct. It was facing towards me.
We see two cones here. What do those depict in terms of the location of your vehicle?
The front of my vehicle would be that one that your pen's pointing at, and the back of my vehicle would be there. That's an estimate. Obviously, we were trying to recreate, but that's an estimate about where my car was when I heard the shot and my window shattered.
Okay. So at this point, when we were talking about slowing down, had you started to turn into the driveway yet?
No,
So you were still sort of straightforward?
correct.
Okay. And so the distance that we're talking about is what we see here in 13 from this cone to the edge of your driveway here?
Correct.
Okay. So a little over the width of your driveway.
Yeah.
When you saw the rifle come out of the rear of that Jeep, can you describe for us what you say you saw on the end of it?
It was cylindrical, and it looked a little bigger than a normal. I mean, every muzzle at the end of those rifles has some kind of a sight or usually something on it that they use to when you're shooting. But this looked like it had something different on it. It was a little bigger, and that's why I said a suppressor or. I mean, I didn't get a long look at it, but it definitely stood out to me that it looked a little different. I think that's the part that I described was that it was noticeable.
Imagine driving around town in your like everyday vehicle that you pretty much go to like all sorts of locations where it's recorded and documented, such as a storage unit. And then you decide, oh, I better use a suppressor for this weapon, gotta be stealthy at this point. It's just ridiculous. It's just like, I'm so glad that they didn't take anything into consideration because it made it this much easier for them to get all of these life sentences that they've racked up. It's incredible, but it's just insane to me that he even thought to use a suppressor, given the fact that they have left the biggest trail of evidence I've possibly ever seen in a trial.
So it was wider or bigger than the normal barrel itself?
Correct.
Okay. When the window shattered next to you, did anything come in to you that you recognized at that time?
No.
Did you understand at that point there wasn't a hole in your window?
Correct.
As you hear that bang and see your window shatter here, is that then when you accelerate this direction that we see down Exhibit 14?
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Okay. And then when you got to the end of this street, which direction did you go?
I went right.
Okay. And then you headed straight up Cole and stopped at that park or whatever with the pool?
Yes.
I'm still a bit confused about the window part. It's certain points where he's saying the window didn't shatter, but then it also did. Maybe they're going to get deeper into like the parts of the vehicle at some point, but I don't fully understand that part.
As you are waiting in the driveway here in your car, did you get out of it? I know you said the door opened, but did you get out?
I didn't get out and look at my car. The door opened, the window fell down, and I think that I just kind of let the window fall there, and I might have moved like part of the window over, but I'm pretty sure I think that and I'd have to probably review, but I'm pretty sure they asked me to stay in my car till the police officer arrived. So I'm pretty sure I just stayed in the car and waited for the officer.
So before the officer arrived, did you look at your vehicle itself? I'm going to put up Exhibit 25 again.
The first time that I looked at the outside of the exterior of my vehicle was actually when the officer walked me over to my car. And both of us at the same time saw on the top of the door frame there's the spot where the bullet hit. And that was the first time that I knew for certain that I had kind of been shot at. And I remember probably another feeling of shock again, kind of like the first time when someone shoots at you and it's loud, and I remember just thinking like, that's really close to where I was sitting. Like it was inches from my head.
Showing the defendant Exhibit 26.
This is evil stuff, man.
Approach.
Just dropped off his children at school, and then they attempt to assassinate him immediately after.
Brandon, do you recognize what that is a photograph of?
Yes,
What is that a photograph of?
that's the photograph of the top of my car.
That show the bullet hole that you saw?
It does, yes.
State will move to admit Exhibit 26.
Any objection?
No objection.
26 is admitted.
All right, well, it looks like we're going to get into
So we see here in Exhibit 26,
the vehicle.
says the bullet hole.
Oh my God.
Dumb question, was it there before?
No,
Was your window broken before this?
no,
And you were sitting right here.
correct. You can't see it as well, but that's when you sit in that with the way I was sitting in the chair, my head would have been right at that level.
That is so crazy.
When you called 911, were you sort of telling them both sort of what had just happened as well as what was ongoing happening, what you're seeing with the Jeep?
Correct.
Did you make that, you told us, as you're immediately driving away from this shooting?
Yeah, I immediately thought the right thing to do was call 911.
Did you tell the operator at one point you were almost out of breath?
Yeah, when I remember when I first called, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I just remember I couldn't breathe. I was like feeling surprised. Maybe I don't think we have a word for that feeling.
That's understandable. I'm actually surprised that Chad didn't come back and try to do it again, because as we know, failing to assassinate someone does not deter them. They'll simply come back and try an even dirtier tactic, such as poisoning their spouse. But yeah, I'm honestly surprised that Chad didn't try a second time or send someone else. I don't think Alex was around at this point. I think he passed away for mysterious circumstances. But that's the part that really surprised me when he said, yeah, the Jeep saw me, I saw them, but they kept going, towards the exit of our community. Man, this is a terrifying story.
Were you scared?
Yeah,
Do you have concern for your life at that point?
yes,
Were you trying to figure out what had just happened?
yes.
And I've shown the defendant Exhibit 125, the 911 call. If I could have
Oh, here we go.
paralegal play that, just to have the witness identify himself in it.
Go ahead.
Here it is.
you can approach with the computer.
Yes.
Brandon, if you can just listen to that. Have you listened to your 911 call before?
I have, yeah.
You can listen
Yes.
to that and let us know if you recognize that as your 911 call and as your voice.
Yes, this is my 911 call.
Thank you. Your Honor, the state will move to admit Exhibit 125 pursuant to 8031, 8032, and 902.
No objection.
Submitted.
And if we can publish that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Lori literally cannot object. She can't object to any of this stuff. There's nothing at all she can really say.
Gee, I moved to a new home about a week ago.
What kind of vehicle is it that drove?
October 2nd, 2019. 9
Okay.
hours, 14 minutes, 53 seconds.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
Okay, where
they're in a
at?
Jeep. I'm in the Cooley Station neighborhood. I was pulling in my house at 38755 East. I drove away, but I can see them driving off.
Okay, someone shot at your vehicle?
Yeah, and it hit my window. It shattered my driver's side window.
Okay, when you pulled into his driveway?
As I was trying to pull into my driveway. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm a little off breath. They just drove off. I saw them drive off.
Okay. Do you know who these people are?
I have no idea. I moved into a new home about a week ago.
What kind of vehicle is it that drove away?
Jeep Wrangler, had a Texas plate on it. It was,
Jeep
It was,
Wrangler?
yeah, it was olive green.
Olive green? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Hold
look
on
up
just
this
a
Jeep to
second.
see if it's the same.
Texas license plate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't get the plate. I'm sorry. I got a little nervous.
That's okay. That's all right. Oh, which way did they go? Do you remember?
They're driving south towards Pecos Road, between Pecos and Wrecker.
Okay. Okay. Do you don't see the vehicle anymore?
No, they left. They drove off.
Did you see how many people were in the Jeep? Sir?
Yeah.
Hello? Oh, did you see how many people were in the Jeep?
There must have been at least two because somebody shot at me and then somebody else drove off, and I don't think they had enough time to go climb from the back into the front.
Right. Okay.
That is so crazy. Lori was actually there. Oh my gosh. And I think the way that they explained it too, my memory is trash. I literally have already forgot. I think they literally lined it up with when they left the storage unit, and this happened like around the exact same time on the same day. So they literally did it like a evening out on the town. Yeah, let's just drop some things off at the storage, go and assassinate a family member really quick, you know, collect some insurance, life insurance money, and then we'll just come home and, you know, relax for the rest of the day. This is pure evil, man. She was in the car that day. I really wish that we could have like some testimony from Lori, even though while she's representing herself, she inserts testimony within all of this. But I wish the prosecution could have a crack at, you know, asking her some questions.
Do you have any injuries? Did they shoot at you?
They shot at me, it hit my window, it bounced off. It might not have been a real gun. It was loud, but it might have been like a paintball gun or something. 'Cause, I mean, it should have hit me or gone through my window. It just
Okay.
shattered it. It didn't go through.
Okay. Okay. And your window is shattered?
Yeah.
Okay. And you have no idea who these people are?
No idea.
Are you okay?
They were just parked like right in front of my house.
Okay. They were parked out. So they were parked across the street in front of your house?
You know, in front, right on the same side of the street as my house, right in front. There's a minivan there. They're just parked right in front of that.
Okay.
I'm pulling into my house because they're gone.
Okay. Where are you at right now?
In my car.
Where are you at?
In my car at my house at 3
Okay.
I mean, that was the moment the window fell out, wasn't it? You literally could hear it rattle on the ground. This is crazy, man. This dude, oh my God.
East Phelps Street. I'm going to walk over here and see if I can see what they shot at me.
And what kind of car were you in?
I'm in a black Tesla Model X.
It's a black what?
Tesla Model X.
Okay, black Tesla Model X. Okay. Okay. All right. I do have officers on the way to meet you.
Okay.
Do you want to go inside or do you want to wait outside wherever you feel?
I'll wait out here. Yeah, I don't know that it was a real gun. Maybe it was. I can't tell. I don't think it was because my window we should have gone through my window.
Okay. All right. And what is your name?
My name's Brandon Boudreaux.
And your phone number? Okay. Okay. I'm going to stay on the line with you just to make sure you're safe, just in case they come back. Do you have any weapons on you?
No.
Okay. Okay. Do you see the officer pulling up?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Looks like he's coming up Phelps. You said 3875 East Phelps, correct?
Correct. I wonder if he's on. There's another section of it. He might be on the other section.
Okay, because his car is showing right near Fisher Lane and Phelps Street.
I'm at, what is the cross street? Sorry, I just moved over here. Yeah, I'm at Fisher and Phelps. I don't see it.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. It's funny. His car was showing there for a second, and now it's showing back at Higley and Pecos. So that's kind of weird.
Wonder if he saw the Jeep drive off or something.
Really quick, I just want to show you guys. I found possibly the clearest photo of none other than Chad Daybell exiting his Jeep. I don't know if you all can see this. I'm gonna put it right there. That is Chad Daybell exiting the exact vehicle that is being described in this video. And I think the other door is open, so Lori probably hopped out the other side. I really can't believe it. I'm in a state of disbelief still, even though we're this deep into the trial. I don't even know what to say.
Maybe. I know that there's actually an officer that's heading towards you, and then there's other officers that are dispatched that are looking for the car. So we've got several guys looking out for the car, but we have one headed towards your house.
Okay.
I think he accidentally hit his arrive button is what happened, because he's still moving. So just out of nowhere, did you see the guy that
I didn't see who it was. It was weird because I was pulling in and I saw a Jeep, Texas plate, and I thought, oh, that's weird. You know, my neighbor must have someone visiting, and then they lifted up their little back window in their Jeep, and I saw a muzzle, and then I heard a snap and my window shattered. So I just, instead of turning into my driveway, I just hit the gas and drove off because I didn't know.
By the way, I know I'm literally sitting here and I'm just pointing out every mistake that they made. The fact that they faced the back of the vehicle so he could get the clearest view imaginable of their license plate. Amazing work by them. And I'm actually serious by that. I'm so glad that they did it. They gave him the clearest view of their Texas license plate. You can't make this stuff up.
And kind of when I got my bearings, I realized I should call 911.
Okay.
So then I drove, and then I didn't drive very far. I just drove around the corner and waited for you guys to pick up, and then I kind of saw them come around the corner and go down the road and start driving down south towards Pecos and Brecker.
Okay. And did they look like Hispanic
And I knew that was
males,
the only way
white
out.
males?
I didn't see a person at all. I didn't get to see a person.
Okay.
I knew there was only one way out of Pecos Manor, and that's down there on Pecos Road, so that's why I told you that.
Okay. All right. I do see the officer pulling up on Fisher from Fairview.
Okay. So he's coming from the other way. He'll come around right now. I'll see him in just a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, I see him.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and let you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
Bye.
October 2nd, 2009.
Crazy, man. You could hear he was hyperventilating at the very start of it. He gradually calmed down, which is understandable.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you told the 911 operator. You mentioned in the call that you thought it might be a paintball gun because it should have gone through the window. When you were saying this, were you at all contemplating that there's no paint on your window?
No.
Were you sort of that frantic, you're just trying to come up with excuses or ways to explain what happened?
I was just trying to figure out why a bullet didn't come through the window. A bullet should always go through the window was what was going on in my mind. So I was trying to come up with a reason.
So you didn't know through this whole call that your car itself had been hit?
No.
We hear that you, when you got into the driveway, a loud crash.
Yes.
What was that?
When I put my car into park, it automatically opened that door, and then the whole window just fell right there. And most of it kind of stayed together. Like I think the window tint or something held a lot of it together, but also a lot of it didn't. And it was like all over inside my car and all over on the a little bit on the driveway.
Okay. You also told them that you thought there might be two people. Why did you think that?
I was trying to figure out how someone could have been laying in the back shooting at you and gotten into the front and gotten out of there so quick. I was thinking like you'd had to jump over a chair. It seemed like they moved very quickly. So I think I was just trying to come up with a logical reason how they could have moved so fast.
Brandon literally solved the entire case right then and there. That one detail was so important for this entire trial, to basically point out the fact that Lori was there and she had something to do with this attempted murder.
Putting Exhibit 1 back up here. So this is the residence that you were arriving back to, correct?
Correct.
And your car was facing this direction west?
Correct.
And so the Jeep itself was also facing west?
Correct.
When you drove up to the pool, is that in this area off of Cole?
Yes.
And were you all the way up here before you saw the Jeep turn on to wait?
I was, yes.
So there was some time, actually, before the Jeep was able to follow and catch up with you.
Correct. I think in your mind, everything's happening so fast. I was just surprised by how quickly they were moving, but listening to it, for instance, you can hear that there was a lot more time that elapsed than what you thought in the moment.
So time when you were going through this stressful situation seemed faster to you, and now listening to the 911 call that you're talking while this was occurring, you can tell it's a little slower.
Yes.
Do you recall where you were when you were able to finally get your phone and start calling 911?
I was at the end there of Phelps Street, about to turn on to Cole and then I had to unlock my phone, so it took me a couple more seconds around the corner to get it.
Okay. So you were able to drive down Phelps, get into your phone, and get up to Cole and park there, and then you saw the Jeep also turn on Cole and then turn on wait? Mm-hmm. Is that yes?
Yes.
Did you ever see anyone
As in a
in
person?
the vehicle, in the Jeep?
I didn't see who was driving the Jeep.
When you saw the rear window go up, you couldn't see who was in the back?
I didn't get a look at a person, no.
And then when the Jeep turned, you're looking in your rearview mirror towards it?
Yes, and then because I noticed it, I turned my body and looked out across.
And so as the Jeep came up Cole and turned onto Waite, you were not able to see who the driver was?
No.
In the 911 call, we hear the 911 operator refer to the officer as a he. Was the first officer on scene a male or female?
Female.
I'm so glad she's asking questions like this. If you know how Lori is, that's important because she'll try to use that detail against them. I don't know if that, like, in normal trials where the defendant is not the person that's, like, representing themselves, if that's also, like, a big deal. But, yeah, Lori would definitely try to jump on a detail like that and just say, hey, that's pretty weird. That's a detail that's off, so clearly you should just not find me guilty for this. Makes sense.
When the female arrived, you got off the call with 911?
I did, yes.
And did you speak with her and then walk her over to your car?
I did, yes.
And did she point out this bullet hole in your car?
She did, yes.
When you saw that, what happened physically to you?
I remember within a short amount of time, I asked her if I could sit down. I started getting a little bit overwhelmed because I realized that someone shot at me, was trying to kill me. If my head was that close, that's the only logical thing.
Before you saw that bullet hole, were you still sort of trying to explain how there's not a hole in your window?
Yes.
After you saw that bullet hole, did you start to think that someone had tried to kill you?
Yes. I remember I texted my father, told him that.
My God, I'm not a dad. By the way, happy Father's Day, because as I'm recording this, Father's Day is coming up. But imagine that message, right? As a parent in general, everybody out there that's a parent, imagine getting a message like that. Hey, just wanted to let you know somebody shot at me today. I don't know if this is related to it, but he said after all of this transpired, his family members finally moved into his state. Maybe this moment was like so emotional for everybody that they pulled together after this.
What did you text your father?
I said, I think someone just tried to kill me.
Were you thinking about how close you had come to death?
Yeah.
As you were experiencing all these emotions and trying to figure out how to handle this and texting your dad, did the police ask if there was anyone that could come stay with you?
Yeah, they did. And because I didn't have any family, I just said, I had my two business partners who were really good friends, and I asked if they could come.
Nice.
Did you have to tell them where to come?
Yeah, they didn't have my address.
Did they come and stay with you?
They did.
So I guess they're not on the list of potential suspects, right?
Did you eventually move with them across the street to kind of hang out in the shade?
It was hot, so yes, we moved over to a cooler spot as the day went on.
And we see in Exhibit 9, is this actually you guys sitting over here?
That is.
At some point, did a detective come get you and interview you?
Yeah, Detective Pillar came over and got me.
Did he interview you?
Yes, he did.
Where did that interview take place?
We walked around that corner. He had his car parked and in a kind of a shady spot, and we did an interview in his car.
Okay. Was that recorded?
I believe so.
The first patrol officer on scene, that female officer, did she ask you if you could think of anyone who would want to harm you?
She might have. I don't recall. I'm not certain.
Okay. When you met with Detective Pillar, did he ask you if you knew anyone who would want to harm you?
Yes.
I wonder what he said. I'm going to take just a random guess here, but maybe Melanie, I'm thinking.
Do you remember a lot of your interaction with that first officer?
To be honest, like the part that I remember the most is just when I saw the bullet hole, and I think maybe just kind of got a little bit of shock because it was real when I called 911. But then I kept thinking to myself, a bullet didn't come through my window. And, I just, when I saw that, I just realized, like, no, someone is 100% trying to kill me. And then it was kind of an emotional little bit, like I felt a little overwhelmed.
When you talked to Detective Pillar, was that a little bit later, but while you're still sitting here on the scene?
Yes.
Had you had time to kind of get yourself back under control?
Yes.
Do you remember that conversation more than your
Yes.
conversation with the first officer?
Yes, I do.
At that time, when you were asked by Detective Pillar if there was anyone you knew who might want to harm you, were you able to provide any names?
I told him the only person I could think of.
And who was that?
It was two people. It was Lori and Alex.
Is that Lori Vallow?
Lori Vallow and Alex Cox.
I mean, that's even more precise than the guess I just made. He guessed the exact two people that did it. I was thinking of the person that took his address and stuff and gave it to them. But yes, they are the ones that actually attempted to go through with it. 1000% correct.
So the morning of October 2nd of 2019, you have already told Detective Pillar that's who you believed is the only person you could think of who would want to harm you.
Yes.
Had you met Detective Pillar before that morning?
No, didn't know him.
Did you tell the police to tell Detective Pillar that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox had been involved in an incident in July of 2019 in Chandler, Arizona?
I did.
Did you think that that incident had something to do with this?
I did.
You were asked by the police, or do you recall being asked by the police if you had any issues with money or anyone else?
I do.
And did you have anyone else that you could think of that would want to shoot at you?
I did not.
This is a good point because pretty much at this time, Lori had a reputation in the town. Like I remember seeing the documentary where their case was so massive that when they showed up at certain places, there were already media that were jumping out of their vehicles to interview them and figure out like, hey, what is going on? Like, why are there family members all around you that are being mysteriously executed? What's going on here? So it makes sense that he immediately would go, Lori and Chad were the first two people that came to mind when this happened because they're already known for doing dirtbag behavior such as this.
Did you tell the police about your wife Melanie's relationship with Lori Vallow?
I did.
You told us that the Jeep that you saw parked right next to your driveway that we see here in Exhibit 9 had a Texas license plate, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell the police that Lori Vallow had lived in Texas?
I did.
There it is.
So during the time you had known her, you were aware that she and Charles Vallow had lived in Texas?
Correct.
Did it seem relevant to you that you see a Jeep with a Texas plate in front of your house?
It did.
So on October 2nd, when you were shot at, Melanie was living here in Arizona, correct?
Correct.
And she lived close to your house in Phelps? Within a couple miles?
Within a couple miles, yes.
And she was the only person who, outside those two neighbors and two friends, who knew this address?
Correct.
On October 2nd of 2019, did you know where Lori Vallow was living?
No, I did not.
And on October 2nd of 2019, did you know where Alex Cox was living?
No, I did not.
But in July of 2019, you knew they were living in Chandler, Arizona? Or
Yes, I did.
Lori Vallow was living there.
Oh my God, Alex was still alive at this point. I'm literally just thinking that it's only Chad and Lori that are doing this stuff. But if Alex is still around, that is even more dangerous because Alex is the person, you can tell he was so okay with doing the dirty work. I really feel like he did a majority of it. He was the person that they just sent to be the executioner in a sense. I keep thinking back on it. This dude was their uncle, okay? I'm talking about Tylee and JJ. He was their uncle. And he was more than okay with doing what he did. You can already tell the type of individual we're dealing with here. He would definitely do something like this.
Did you ever learn that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox moved to Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes, I did.
Did Melanie ever move out of Arizona?
Can you restate that?
Sure. Did Melanie, your wife, or maybe by then your ex-wife, ever move out of Arizona?
Yes, she did.
Do you recall when she moved out of Arizona?
The end of October 31st or November 1st, 2019.
And did you learn where she moved?
Next door to Lori.
In
Idaho.
Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes.
Are you serious?
The state has no other questions, Your Honor.
Are you serious? Okay, sorry. I switched over to the next part, which is where Lori cross-examines Brandon. So Melanie moved right next door to Lori. Oh my God. I hope the police just went through and just rounded them all up. Like, this is insane. This is literally the property where Tylee and JJ were executed and buried in like the backyard. How does a family just get like this where you're okay with this type of thing? And she's living right next door to that. And she's like, yep, this is normal life. Like, so now Lori is about to cross-examine Brandon. She's gonna get into some gaslighting here. That's her only. It's failed in literally every trial she's had, but I guess she might as well go out swinging, if you can even say that that's what she's doing here. But yeah.
Speak into that microphone. All right, the defendant can start her cross-examination of this witness.
Oh boy. This is going to be a tense little conversation.
Your Honor, when Robert Abernathy gets here, he has some photos and things I need to have marked. So can we stop for a minute when he gets here to do
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Not at all.
Go right.
Mr. Boudreaux, you and I met in 2009, is that correct?
I believe we met in 2008.
Okay. Before you got married, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you got married in 2009, is that correct?
I believe I was married October 31st, 2008.
You know, that always looks great when the attorney does not really know the information that they're just kind of spouting off. I'm sure that's a really great look for the jury to trust the information that you're relaying to them, even though it's being proven that you're just kind of saying stuff. She couldn't even get like just the date of that right. She could have confirmed that before going up here. But no, let's just speak based on what I think it is.
But that's when we met, is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So we've known each other a long time, is that correct?
A long time can mean a lot of different things.
Since 2008.
Correct.
Okay. And we had a familial connection, is that correct?
Yes.
And we always had a friendly relationship, you and I, is that correct?
I wouldn't say always.
Okay.
Ooh.
Until what time?
Until probably end of 2018.
Okay. And we spent many holidays together.
We did.
And you and Melanie were married a little over 10 years, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I was there at your wedding, is that correct?
Correct.
And I came to Utah to help you when your first child was born, is that correct?
I'm going to object to relevance.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Correct.
This is literally what I'm talking about. What does any of this have to do with the fact that you shot at him? Is she trying to like guilt him into saying in the microphone, okay, you know what, now that I think about it, maybe you didn't do this. No, you definitely did. Just because you attended his wedding, and you were there around his kids, which if I was him and I thought back on it, I would thank God that nothing happened to them, because she's just okay with killing family members and just doing that kind of stuff. So I don't know what this is supposed to mean right now. Listen, the trial is wrapped up at this point. The jury took little to no time to come back with a guilty verdict. So clearly they heard this and were thinking, yeah, she's just saying things, and she clearly did this. Let's just give that guilty verdict.
And I was there when your second child was born, is that correct?
You were not present when my child was born, but
Well, I came to help and watched Braxy, so I was there.
She's
you visited
testifying.
you were with my family, correct?
Okay.
She literally
And I flew in
testified.
from Hawaii when Blake was born to help with the kids, and I watched them while you and Melanie were at the
Gonna
hospital.
again
Is that correct?
Object again to character evidence.
Sustained.
And I did watch the kids when Breezy was born as well. Is that
Your Honor,
correct?
I'm going to object and ask
Sustained.
to go into 405 soon.
And we went on vacations together, you and I. Is that correct?
Gonna-
Ms. Vallow, okay, move on to relevant information, okay? You've established you have a relationship with him that's close family relationship since 2008.
It has nothing to do with evidence. She's literally just trying to appeal to like some kind of, I don't even know what. I can't even put this into words. I guess she's trying to say, I was always there for you, so how could you say that I did this? Even though every shred of evidence shows that I did in fact do this. Like, what are we, what is happening? But okay, the judge instructed her to stop doing it. It's crazy though.
And you came to visit me in Hawaii a few times. Is that correct?
And Your Honor, I'm going to object.
I'm just asking in the sense that it was him coming to me.
I'm so sorry. I want to go back a little bit. I want you to see the way the judge turned and looked at her as if he was saying like, did you really just go against what I told you to do? Just pay attention to the way he turned and looked at her. When she continued to ask the types of questioning, he said, hey, move on from this.
You came to visit me in Hawaii a few times. Is that correct?
And Your Honor, I'm going to object.
I'm just asking in the sense that it was him coming to me.
All right,
There's things that happened there that I'm going to.
approach.
Okay.
Let's see if she keeps going with this line of questioning. She's going to keep going. I already
Brandon,
know
you
it.
and I had never had an argument with each other. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
Okay, when did we ever have an argument? You and I.
I'm going to object to relevance. If there's something specific about that, are we talking in 10 years?
I'll overrule it. You can answer.
The most recent argument that I would say we have is when I was texting you in June.
That was June 25th, 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There you go.
And had you been upset with me before that time?
Are you talking about ever in our lives?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're all human. I'm sure there was times I was upset with you.
Is there something specific that you were upset with me about before the June 25th text messages?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance if there's something more specific.
Sustained.
Like he's literally given examples of times that she has inserted herself into their relationship and tried to sabotage it for a very long time. I'm pretty sure he was upset about that, but who knows, right?
Were you upset with me about Juice Island?
And I'm going to object as to relevance
Juice Island?
and 404.
Sustained.
Is she going to explain what that is? I have no idea.
Brandon, you had mentioned before that Melanie and I were close. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you were aware that I loved Melanie. Is that correct?
I can't say if you loved her or not.
But you saw that over the
What is happening?
10 years that you were married to her, right? You witnessed it with your own eyes.
What is it you're asking that I witnessed?
Me loving Melanie.
As I said, I can't state what you did or did not feel. I can't say what you felt.
But I acted in a way that was loving towards her, in as far as you knew.
I'm going to object again to relevance, 404 and 405 character evidence.
Sustained.
And as we know, Lori has a strange view of love. Look at what she did to her loved ones, right? It's really tough to determine what is real love with Lori. So I completely understand. I have no idea.
So we were all together as a family frequently, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there were times when we were at your house as well as my house, is that correct?
An objection to relevance.
Sustained.
And until you sent me that text message on June 25th that we read yesterday, you and I had never had any disagreements with each other. Is that correct?
I would not agree with that statement.
You and I had ever had an argument?
Can you ask that question again?
Did you and I ever have an argument?
And again, as to foundation of when,
I'll allow him to answer. You can answer.
I'm sure we had, I don't know how you would define argument, but disagreements.
Face to face, you and I? Before the June 25th?
Hold on.
That's all I'm asking, just before
Okay,
that.
maybe rephrase it.
So by the time we met in 2008 until June 25th, 2019, did you and I ever have an argument?
Is there something you're looking for that you're trying to specify? And I'm not sure I can. That's a broad question that I can't think of a specific time where we argued face to face. If that's what you're looking for.
And also, what does this have to do with you shooting at the side of the vehicle? Okay.
Correct. So you and I have never had an argument in our lifetimes.
I wouldn't agree with that. I would say that there have for sure been disagreements between us, but I can't think of a specific time that I could share where me and you face to face argued. I'm not a confrontational person.
You've known me for all these years. Am I a confrontational person?
I'm going to object to character evidence under 404 and 405.
Sustained.
We've learned from the trial that she's very confrontational. But all right.
Would you agree that I supported you as a husband and a father to your children?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustained.
So in your testimony yesterday, you talked about this long argument that you had with Melanie. Was that on the same day, on June 25th, 2019?
It was.
Okay. And you said it was a long argument. How long did that go on?
It started in the afternoon, and it went through past midnight.
So several hours.
Yes.
And you remember this date because that was the day you sent me those text messages, is that correct?
I wouldn't say that's the only reason I remember that date. It's a painful date.
Okay. So you remember that date specifically?
Yeah, I do remember that day.
Okay. And you had mentioned that this argument started as a result of Melanie not wanting to attend your grandfather's funeral, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were aware that Melanie had trauma with all funerals because her mother passed away when she was 9, is that correct?
Object to relevance.
I'll overrule the objection. He can answer if he knows the answer.
I can't say why Melanie was feeling the way she was feeling. I'm not Melanie.
But you know she had an issue with funerals before your grandfather passed away.
As I said, I'm not Melanie. I can't say what she had an issue with or not.
But you're aware that her mother passed away when she was 9, right?
Yes, I'm aware her mother passed away.
How does this prove that you and your new boyfriend did not shoot at the vehicle? This line of questioning is literally just to make him feel bad and to basically just make him look a certain way to the jury and the world. That's literally the only purpose of this questioning. It has nothing to do with what the trial is actually about.
She had to go to the funeral.
I'm going to object to relevance.
I'll sustain it at this point. Go ahead. Next question.
But she's your wife of 10 years, so you knew that about her, is that correct?
And again, I'm going to object to relevance, the same question.
It's completely understandable that you would want your wife at your side at your grandfather's funeral, so a disagreement between a couple would begin over that issue. That's not
Objection to
far-fetched, right?
testifying.
That's a statement. Can you, if you want to phrase it as a question, go ahead.
So your argument began because of this issue with not wanting to go to your grandfather's funeral, is that correct?
Yes.
Also asked and answered.
And was Melanie upset or crying at that point?
No, just me.
Okay.
I feel really bad for Brandon.
So during this long, several-hour disagreement, you would have covered a myriad of topics, is that correct?
Can you define a myriad of topics?
Just several different things probably came up during this very long argument.
We talked about several different things, yes.
Okay. And one of those things I had come up in the conversation, is that correct?
One of the things that came up was you getting your temple recommended and me hacking your computer.
So I'm saying I was brought up in that long conversation just the one time?
This is the part that matters most to Lori. You talked about me. You remember she did this to the woman that went on a date with Charles, and she was so upset about the fact that they talked about her during their date.
I don't know if I could say just the one time. It was quite a long time we spent on that particular topic, which was bothersome.
Okay.
But it was about me, right?
So as you were trying to change the subject, Melanie was going back to that?
As I was trying to understand why it was important to her, she focused very much on the subject, yes.
Okay. And you had stated before that Melanie saw me as a mother to her, is that correct?
I said a mother-like figure.
Right. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that your mother-in-law would be brought into a very long argument, is that correct?
Objection, speculation, relevance.
Mother-in-law?
Or someone close to your wife?
Sustained.
And by the way, she's making it very clear that she was involved in this entire situation. I know I keep pausing it, but she makes so many weird statements. She's showing that, yes, I absolutely took that address from her, and me and Chad, we sat outside your house, or me and Alex, as soon as we got that address, we were outside of your house.
But I was not the focus of that entire argument, is that correct?
My focus was my family, my wife and my children. I love them, and I didn't want them to go through pain.
Nice.
Is that what you spent all those hours arguing?
Yeah, because I love them and I wanted to work through things with my wife, yes. I didn't spend it for any other reason.
And during this argument, there were several issues that you discussed, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And one of those issues was Melanie informing you of text messages that she had viewed?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Is one of those issues a video of you on Facebook dancing at the pink pony that Melanie showed you?
Object to relevance to 404B evidence and 403.
Sustained.
This is not to prove anything, ladies and gentlemen. So there you go. Lori's not trying to get out of this situation. She knows, listen, I'm fully cooked. I'm in prison forever. I might as well try to do some damage before I get out of here, Before I get out of your hair. Dude, poor Brandon. That is crazy.
Did Melanie show you a video of yourself
Object
during
again
that
to the same
argument?
manner.
Sustained.
Oh my God, dude.
What else was discussed in this argument?
Objection, relevance, foundation, something specific.
I'll sustain the objection.
How many topics would you say were gone over during this long argument?
I couldn't say.
By the way, thank you to the person that explained to me what this... She's not doing it now, but in the previous video, she had like something over her mouth. Thank you for breaking it down to me. She's talking into it and is transcribing what she's saying. But okay, thank you.
So until... Did I ever answer the text messages that you sent to me?
I never received a reply.
Were you at that point blaming me for that argument? In your mind?
I think that the only people who can be responsible for ourselves is ourselves, so I was focused on myself and my wife.
Okay.
Those little statements she makes at the end, okay. My God, man, that is so annoying.
So that argument ended up beginning your divorce proceedings, is that correct?
At the end of that argument, she told me that she needed a divorce, correct?
And who filed for divorce?
I did,
And when was that?
in July.
Do you know the date that you filed?
It's complicated because I went and met with a mediator, but she didn't file the paperwork for a while, so I guess it depends on how you define who filed for it and when.
Okay. Did you file it with the court? Like file for divorce with the court?
A mediator did.
Okay. Oh, so you don't know when she actually put the paperwork in, is that correct?
Correct.
When did you meet with her? Do you remember that?
I do.
What day was that?
In July.
Did you meet with her on your own, or did you and Melanie just meet with her together?
We met with her together.
Every time?
Yes, every time we went together.
Okay. And that started in July?
Correct.
And do you know when that was final?
Mid-October.
And you were able to come to mutual agreements during that time? With the mediator?
Can you give me more? What are you looking for specifically on that?
I'm just saying, the mediation was completed, so you came to your agreements, is that correct?
We filed for divorce, so yes.
Okay. So when was it that Melanie moved into the rental house from the house that you were living together in?
I believe I moved her on July 14th, I believe. I'm not certain.
And then you stayed in the house until what date?
Until my home sold.
When was that?
We got it under contract in September, beginning of September, and closing was October 1st.
Okay. And when did you move into your rental house? What day was that?
Mid-September to late September. It might have been in the 25th, 24th, 26th, somewhere in there.
And then you had schedule with the children, is that correct?
Can you ask that question?
I'm just saying you had agreed to a schedule with the children, is that correct?
Part of our divorce, we had a schedule, yes.
And so on October 2nd, all 4 children were with you, is that correct?
It depends on what time you're speaking about.
Well, they spent the night with you, so they would have woke up with you on October 2nd, is that correct?
On October 2nd night, they slept with their mom. On October 1st night, they slept with me.
Okay. That night turned into October 2nd, is that correct?
If you're saying October 2nd in the morning, then yes. Yes, that would be, my kids would have still been at my house in the morning.
Yes, okay. And then you had taken them to school, is that correct, in the morning?
Correct.
You said that you guys got up, you had food, you were getting ready,
Yes.
normal, typical morning, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you dropped off your 2 oldest at their elementary school, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you took Breeze to her mom and dropped her off at the park, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you took Blake to his preschool and dropped him off, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Here's the funny thing about this. It would be one thing if you knew like these questions were leading up to something. She's literally just running through the stuff that she heard the prosecution ask, but it's not leading up to anything. She did this in the last trial, and you're thinking like, okay, this is leading up to some kind of moment, right? Surely she's going to ask a question that's going to poke holes in like this entire testimony, but nope, she's just kind of asking foundational questions, and then she's going to end it with something that's just gaslighting.
And then where did you go from there?
I went to the gym.
What was the name of your gym? I'm sorry.
EOS.
And you worked out for, you said, an hour to an hour and a half?
Yeah, I wasn't watching it super close, so I can't tell you exactly how long it was.
Okay. And then you drove straight home, is that correct?
From the gym, yes.
Okay. Now, on that day, you had an interview with Detective Pillar, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that the first time that you met Detective Pillar?
Yes.
Was on that day on October 2nd, 2019?
Correct.
And in that interview, you told him basically what had happened, is that correct?
I answered the questions that he asked, yeah.
And you told him all about Melanie, is that correct?
It's a pretty broad question. I don't know that I could say that I told him all about Melanie.
So you discussed Melanie, is that correct?
We did, yes.
And you discussed me, is that correct?
We did, yes.
I knew that was coming. That's the real question. You talked about me? What's that about?
And he had asked you kind of what happened, is that correct?
He asked me what happened? Yes, he asked me what happened.
And you talked about your divorce, is that correct?
We did discuss parts of my divorce, yes.
You had told Detective Hiller that someone had convinced her that you were gay, is that correct?
Can you ask that question again?
You had told Detective Pillar that that someone had convinced Melanie that you were gay.
I can't remember if I specifically told him that someone had convinced Melanie that I was gay. I would have to review the conversation I had with him to be able to say for certain that's how I worded it.
Okay. Do you recall telling him that she has a friend named Lori? Melanie?
I did not say she has a friend named Lori. No.
You didn't? Would you like to look at your interview?
I
To
said
refresh
that
your
she-
recollection?
I said that she has an aunt named Lori.
Would you like to review this to refresh your recollection?
What does any of this matter? It's just like I said, she's literally just saying things at this point because, like I said, she knows she's cooked. You called me her friend, by the way. What's that about? You're talking about me. You're calling me her friend. I'm her aunt, right? Throw this entire case out and also undo the life sentences. He called me a friend.
Sure.
Okay.
Have your Ms. Hicks? I think she has a exhibit she needs to approach with.
If you want to just read that page to yourself, and then I can ask you a question again.
It looks like I did call you a friend. Wow.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Did that refresh your memory, Brandon?
I read that. I think that maybe a transcriptionist miswrote that because I wouldn't have referred to you as a friend named Lori. I would have referred to you as an aunt named Lori.
There you go.
Okay. And it was me that you were talking about that convinced her that you were gay? Is that what you were referring to?
In that context, I never said that Lori is the one who convinced Melanie that I was gay.
Okay. So in the second paragraph, it didn't say she's the one that convinced her that I'm gay?
Improper
But she did do this.
impeachment refreshing. I'm not sure what she's doing.
Sustained.
What is going on?
Would you like to read it again?
If you would like me to, I can read it again.
Okay. It's line 251.
Now you notice that she is hyper focused on this part. She literally keeps circling back to it.
Thank you. Did that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I read a different line. That is the in 251. I did specifically say that I thought you.
That I had convinced her.
Can you ask that
That I
question?
had convinced Melanie that you were gay?
I said that I specifically thought that you had been involved in convincing her that I'm gay. Yes, correct.
Okay. And so she did not show you herself a video of you dancing at the Pink Pony.
Object
Is that
again, Your
correct?
Honor, to relevance to 404B.
Sustained. It's all sustained.
And what was your understanding of how I convinced Melanie of this accusation?
I'm sorry. Are we basically just ironing out like family issues here? Like Lori has lost the plot completely. You are here because you attempted to kill this man. Forget what the trial is about. There is a video of you dancing somewhere, and that's the main focus. This is why I say I wish the judge could tell her, no, he bangs the gavel, order in the court, just so you know we're here because you obliterated 1/4 of your family, and also you tried to get this man. So let's go ahead and keep this on the rails, and
We have speculation.
Can we sidebar?
I think that's a good idea. I don't know if you can see this. I almost called her Melanie. I mean, they kind of are one and the same, but Lori is like banging her pen into the table. You know, she is screaming at this judge. We have to ask him about the pink pony. This is necessary to this case. As soon as I finish with this line of questioning, you'll finally see I was never there.
All right, members of the jury, we're going to take a 15-minute recess, morning recess. We will resume in about 15 minutes. Please remember the admonition.
All right.
Man, that sidebar lasted, I think, like 8 minutes or something. Like, it went on. Lori was arguing tooth and nail for the pink pony questions. I'm going to fast forward until this break is over with. So I'll be right back.
All right, please be seated. The jury is no longer present. We've
never
concluded
mind.
that sidebar. A record's been made. I would just caution the defendant. Again, she needs to be very careful, and she's getting into areas that could open a huge door that I don't think she wants open. I'm going to make another record at 10:24 to 10:25. We held a sidebar that I don't think made it onto the court record. That sidebar again discussed similar issues of if the defendant brings in evidence or testimony that she was a good person and no ill intent and those sorts of things, and specific acts of her being a good person, it could open the door to other things that she may not want the door open to.
Right. She's literally testifying.
The state, the defendant, and advisory counsel were at the bench when we had that short 1 minute sidebar, but I don't know if anyone wants to supplement the record on that. Ms. Cave?
Just, Your Honor, that, again, the state did raise any issue of character evidence under 404A and 405, that if the defendant opens the door and tries to advise that she is a good person, a peaceful person, a kind person, a loving person, any of those other types of things, that we believe that would allow us under 405 to then bring in specific acts such as the murder of her children, her husband, and her current husband's wife.
Yeah, so keep going down this path, Lori. I think the jury definitely needs to hear about that, don't you think? She's literally lost the plot of why she's here. She gets so hyper-focused on being right about something within these little arguments with the witnesses that she forgets about everything else. It's literally just, but didn't you say this, though? Didn't you say that I'm her friend and not her aunt? And didn't you say that I'm the one that convinced her about what you're doing at the Pink Pony? And, like, this is what she cares about more than proving her innocence, which just goes to show like the type of person we're dealing with right now. This is absolutely insane.
All right.
Which would also be 404B that they withdrew.
No, it'd be
Yeah,
405.
they withdrew it, but if you bring up 404 that you...
Then all 404B is in, or do we get a hearing on what 404B can come in? If I open the door, do I get a hearing? We stop trial and I get a hearing on...
Stop. We'll have a very short hearing, okay? If you're going to introduce how you have great character and good character, we're going to have a short hearing on what evidence that they can bring in to rebut that character, which could include being convicted of 4 murders. So
And would you
talk
like...
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either.
yelling at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm
Oh,
very...
here we go. Here we go. It's reached a boiling point. She is hold on, let's go back a little bit. I could feel that it was building up to this point because she was going and then he stopped her. And I knew immediately Lori was not gonna like that. Like, oh, just let me go, let me scream. Okay, let's hear it.
And would you
talk
like...
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either.
yelling at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm
Take
very
her out.
courteous.
Take her out.
I'm very courteous to you.
Take her out. No, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings. Talk with your advisory counsel about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
That is absolutely amazing.
All rise.
You have been nothing close to courteous, which is true. Like, he has literally allowed you to still represent yourself despite lying tooth and nail about, hey, he just rejects all of my emotions and he doesn't listen to anything I say, which is absolutely untrue. I'm so glad I didn't fast forward through this little break. We got to see Lori get kicked out. This is taking me back to the Daryl Brooks trial. Now, Daryl got kicked out every what seemed like 30 seconds, but we finally got a Lori Vallow removal or something. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward. We'll be right back.
Please be seated.
All right, here we go. Is Lori back? Yes, she is.
Ms. Daybell, if you continue to ask lines of questions where I've sustained an objection, into areas where I've sustained an objection, if you continue to speak over me or the prosecutor when it's not your turn to speak, I will give you a chance to speak and make any record that's made. If you continue to do all these things, I may be forced to revoke your pro per status.
I understand, Your Honor. I apologize.
Are we ready to continue with the cross-examination?
Yes, and I'm just going to ask a few questions of clarification.
Go ahead.
I mean, when we get up there, that's fine. I'm just going to clarify a few things, and then I'll move on
You mean with me or with the witness?
with the witness.
Okay, go ahead and get ready at the podium.
AKA more pink pony questions.
Depending on when we finish with this witness, we'll determine when we break for lunch, I guess. It depends on who you have next. We could go to like 12:15 and then start again at 1:15. We can be flexible, but so I guess let's see where we are when we finish with this witness. All right, let's bring the jury in. All right, members of the jury, please be seated. Thank you. I just had to take care of a legal issue. We'll continue with the cross-examination of this witness. Go ahead.
I'm ready to hear this first question back.
Yesterday in your testimony, Mr. Boudreaux, you talked about your argument on July 25th, is that correct? I mean, on June 25th with your wife, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you had marital problems in those 10 years or no?
Objection to relevance.
I'll allow it briefly. Go ahead.
Can you define marital problems?
Well, like a course of contention, were there other courses of contention in your marriage during those 10 years?
If you've been married for 10 years, there's definitely times where you don't agree.
Absolutely. So would the fact that you traveled a lot during those 10 years been a course of contention?
I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustain.
But there are other issues besides what happened that day on June 25th, is that correct?
Can you re-ask that question?
Like you said, a marriage has issues if you're married for 10 years, that's correct?
What?
I'm not sure I understand the question that you're asking. Can you ask it one more time?
Okay. You had stated that, I'll move on so I can be more clear. You had stated that to Detective Pillar that Melanie had been going to the temple all the time, is that correct?
I can't say for certain I stated that to him, but she did go to the temple often, yes.
And that she had prayed about it and God had answered her in a call, is that correct?
I can't say for certain that I told him that she had prayed about it and God had answered her in a call. If you have a transcript where I could read, I would be happy to read that to verify.
Okay.
That's not what I read there.
Okay. Do you like to tell me what you read?
I'm going to object to improper, I don't know, impeachment, refreshing.
What is even happening?
Yeah, maybe, I think what you should do is look at it and maybe rephrase your question.
Okay.
Go ahead and hand it back.
I'm trying to think of where these questions are like what they're leading up to. I can't even guess.
So you had said that God answered her in a call.
In reference to the temple?
In reference to Melanie saying that she thought you were gay.
There we go.
I did in her saying that she thought I was gay, but that didn't have anything to do with the temple, which was the question you were asking me earlier.
Yeah, so I was saying she frequented the temple, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That was a separate issue. So I was asking that she was convinced of this because God answered her in a call, is what you told Detective Pillar. Is that correct?
What is of this?
Of the fact that she was saying that you were gay.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be, can you ask that question again?
I'm trying to get to the fact that she had her own personal revelation of that idea about you.
I can't say what she was thinking. I can't say why.
But she had
made
conveyed
choice.
that to you, that she had a God answer her in a call.
I'm going to object to hearsay at this point.
Sustain.
Where did you get that information?
Which information are you asking?
Okay, the information that you gave to Detective Pillar that God answered in a call, what was that in reference to?
The line before it was me explaining that I'd have to read the line again. I can't say exactly, but my understanding is that you're speaking about me referencing her talking about me being gay.
Correct. And you're saying that she's the one that prayed about it and God answered her in a call. Is that correct?
Can I read it again? I would like to
Sure.
answer the question the best I can.
Yes. It's 240 and 241.
I feel so bad for the legal counsel who has to literally keep getting up to walk this back and forth. Only for this to not prove a single thing. I guess what she's trying to say is, I really don't know. I'm not even gonna. I guess what she's trying to basically say is that this proves that you were not telling the truth when you said you thought I was the one that convinced Melanie that you frequent the Pink Pony. So I guess she's basically trying to say this proves that we can't take your testimony seriously because she wasn't convinced by me. She got it in a revelation from a prayer, and I didn't shoot at you. It's a really stupid argument, but okay, here you go.
So that's where did you get that information that you gave to Detective Pillar that she prayed about it and God answered her in a call?
I can't tell you for certain. I'm guessing that what I was sharing with them there was pertaining to my thoughts on our conversation from June 25th.
Okay, so on June 25th, Melanie conveyed to you that she had this belief about you herself. Is that correct?
On June 25th, Melanie told me that she believed that I was gay. Correct.
That she herself had that belief.
Yes.
Not that that belief had come from me, but that belief had come from herself.
Are you asking me whether or not I think that belief came from you?
No, I'm saying, did she convey to you that she had that belief, period?
Yes.
Okay. And then later in the next line, you tell Detective Pillar, you convey to him that I convinced her of that fact.
Yes.
Okay. What made you believe I convinced her of that fact?
Conversations I'd had with Charles Vallow.
Okay. So did you hear me tell that to Melanie Boudreaux?
No.
Did you ever witness me talking to her about you?
Did I witness you talking to Melanie about me?
Correct.
At any point?
About this topic, about being gay?
No, I did not witness you talking to her about this topic.
Okay. So you heard it from a third party, supposedly.
I heard it from Charles Vallow.
Okay. But not from me directly. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess that's a checkmate, right?
So on this day, on October 2nd, you conveyed these things to Detective Pillar. Is that correct? That she has a friend named Lori.
Can you ask that question again?
Yes. To Detective Pillar on October 2nd, you conveyed to him that Melanie has a friend named Lori.
As I stated, I think that's a typo. I believe I said aunt named Lori.
Okay. So she has an aunt named Lori, which would be me. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she's the one who convinced her that I'm gay. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
But you didn't get that information from me or from Melanie. Is that correct?
I would not say that that's correct.
Okay. You got that information from Melanie?
I got what information from Melanie?
Did you get information from Melanie that I convinced her that you are gay?
I inferred from conversations that I had with her that you were the one convincing her that I was
You
gay.
inferred from conversations?
Correct.
Okay, but she did not convey to you, Lori's the one that convinced me, and I know this now to be a fact because Lori is the one that convinced me of this.
She never said those words to me, no.
Okay, and she showed you a video that she found on Facebook.
The pink pony.
I'm not going to say.
Again, to 404B evidence, to extrinsic evidence, to relevance, to 403 evidence.
Okay, sustained. We're not talking about the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived back at the pink pony. All of this was leading up. She can't stay away from it. That's all that this is about at this point. The trial isn't even about attempted murder. It should have pink pony in the title.
But she had her own reasons that she personally believed these things that had nothing to do with me. Is that correct?
Asked and answered.
Well, I'm
And
also going to
relevance.
sustain the form of the question on Melanie's belief.
Melanie conveyed to you that she had several reasons why she had this, why she was making this accusation to you. Is that correct?
I can't say how many reasons she said. It's been a long time. But I mean, we discussed it at length for a while, and both parties shared their reasons why it was confusing.
Okay. And so Detective Pillar had asked you if she had any sort of evidence to this. Is that correct?
I believe
She's
I
going to
did,
go
yes.
back to the pink pony. Watch this.
And would you like to see your answer to that?
I would love to, yes.
Here we go. She found a route back to it.
It starts at line 675.
And you hear how she whispers it with such, she's so proud of herself. I'm going to let you read that line. What does that say, by the way? Certain color, you know, of a baby horse or something like that. Do you want to maybe, she's going to find a way to say this once again.
And what did you convey to Detective Pillar at that time when he asked you what sort of evidence that you had?
I told him that it's silly evidence.
I'm sorry, what?
It's silly evidence.
You told him there was silly evidence?
Yes.
What did you tell him specifically?
Your Honor, I'm going to object again as to relevance.
Well, it's also hearsay. Sustained.
She's not going to back down, Judge. I'm sorry.
So how are you aware that Melanie had this silly evidence?
And I'm going to object again to just relevance into this area and 404B again.
He can answer the question, how was he aware where he got this information? But other than that, the objection's sustained.
From conversations with her.
Okay. So she didn't show it to you? She just talked to you about it?
Again, object, Your Honor. I don't know how many times we can object like
Sustained.
this.
Let's move on.
So you called it silly evidence and vague evidence, is that correct?
I'm not sure about vague. I could have-
Literally ignored the judge's instructions and kept going.
Is it contradictory for you to tell Detective Pillar on that same day, in the same interview, that I convinced Melanie and that she had her own individual evidence that she presented to you?
I don't believe that that's contradictory, no.
You don't believe that's contradictory?
No.
So how is it that you think I convinced her?
As I shared, I
With
had
Charles
conversations
Vallow.
with other people who shared that that was something that you were doing.
But you never heard them from me or from Melanie, is that correct?
I did not.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to let everybody take a guess now. Do you think she's going to move on from this line of questioning, or are we going to just stay on this? It's like a little over 35 minutes left. I'm thinking it's going to be strictly pink pony questions, but that's just my guess. I'll let you all take a guess now, but I'm going to hit play.
When you were talking to Detective Pillar that day, he had asked you, have you ever seen that vehicle before? And I'm sure he's
moved on.
referring to the Jeep Wrangler. Do you remember what you answered him?
It would be great if I could read it.
Okay. Did that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. So he had asked you if you had ever seen that vehicle before, and what did you convey to him?
Not that I could recall.
Okay. And then he asked you to tell him more about the Jeep, and you gave him a color. What color did you say that you thought the Jeep was?
I believe olive or puke green.
Okay. And that you had never seen that Jeep before?
Objection asked and answered.
Had you ever seen the Jeep in my household before?
Are you asking what I said that day, or are you asking me today?
I'm asking you today. Before October 2nd, had you seen the Jeep in my household before?
I might have. I don't remember for certain.
Okay. And what color do you think the Jeep that was in my household was?
Are you asking what I think it is today, or are you asking what I thought it was that day?
I'm asking what you thought it was before October 2nd.
I don't know that I thought a lot about it, to be honest with you.
Also, why would you ask this question? Why are you confirming things about yourself and that I did, in fact, have a Jeep? And like, why are you? Oh, goodness. I don't understand, but okay.
And you had never seen it before?
As I said, I can't recall for certain whether or not I had seen it before.
And it had never been parked at your house?
Which house are you talking about?
Your Quinn house.
It could have been. I can't recall.
Okay. And so before October 2nd, you were aware that there was a Jeep Wrangler in my household, is that correct?
Before October 2nd,
Yes.
I believe that at one point, Charles had called me to have me run VINs on all your vehicles because he was looking at insurance at the time. And so I did get the VIN for that vehicle.
Okay, so you knew the details of that vehicle prior to October 2nd, is that correct?
I had received them from him. I hadn't thought about it again.
Okay, but when he gave you those, did you look up the VIN numbers before October 2nd in doing that research for the insurance?
When he gave them to me, I used those numbers to run a report that would allow me to see what options he could have for insurance.
And in that research, were you made aware of the details of the Jeep?
I didn't dive into the details, no.
Okay, so would it
Sorry. So is she trying to say he made this up based on the fact that he already knew about her Jeep, so therefore he just wanted a fall guy for whoever shot at him? I don't know. But okay, I cut off a little bit of her question. Let me go back a little bit.
So were you aware at that time that it was like a 2-door Jeep or a 4-door Jeep, any of those kinds of details? Before October 2nd?
I can't honestly recall whether or not he told me. I don't know that I needed to know that or that it was something I was thinking about at all.
Okay. But that day it came to your mind, is that correct?
Which day are you talking about?
October 2nd.
Can you give me a little more context on what you're looking for came to my mind?
Oh, on that day, you stated that it was a 2-door Wrangler. Is that correct?
In my conversation with Detective Pillar? Is that
Correct.
what you're talking about? I probably, it would be better if I read it, if that's okay.
Sure. So you told Detective Pillar, or you conveyed to him that it was a 2-door Wrangler. Is that correct?
When we're talking about the Jeep that I saw that day, yes, I saw a 2-door Wrangler.
And so my question is, were you aware if the Jeep Wrangler in my household was a 2-door Wrangler or a 4-door Wrangler prior to October 2nd?
As I said earlier, I didn't think about the Jeep that was in your household prior to October 2nd. It wasn't something I had ever thought about other than taking a VIN and running it for insurance for Charles.
Okay.
Wow, Lori asked a legitimate question out of like the hour of her just grilling him about the pink pony. She finally asked like a legit question. I cannot believe it. And surely this probably came from legal counsel, but
But that's how you acquired the VIN number for that vehicle?
That is how I acquired it.
And when was that about? About what time frame?
I couldn't even tell you. I can't remember.
When did you start doing that car insurance business, auto insurance?
The end of 2018, some point after, towards the end, one of the last few months of 2018.
Okay. So sometime within that year, he had you run all those numbers just to see if we could get a better insurance rate. Is that correct?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you when exactly.
Okay. Let's go to that day of October 2nd. In your interview with Detective Peller, you had mentioned that you saw a little boy. Is that correct?
No.
To ask for some foundation.
Yeah, can you narrow
Okay.
that down a little
Sure,
more?
sure. Sure. In your narrative that you're talking to tell what happened to Detective Pillar in your interview, okay? Can I just show it to you and have you?
Your Honor, if she could just ask a question and properly
hold on.
question the witness.
the prosecutor is done with this. If she could just maybe be a better attorney and ask like a legitimate question, I think that would be better. Even she feels bad for legal counsel who has to keep going back and forth with this piece of paper because I feel so bad for her. She literally has to run up to Brandon with this paper every 15 seconds.
In your narrative that you're talking to tell what happened to Detective Pillar in your interview, okay? Can I just show it to you and have you?
Your Honor, if she could just ask a question and properly
hold on.
question the witness.
I would suggest you just ask, did you see a little boy that day?
Okay,
If that's what you're getting at.
okay.
She had to be coached. That's
Did you
wild.
see a little boy that day, right after the glass had shattered?
No, I did not see a little boy that day.
Okay. And why did you tell that to Detective Pillar if you didn't see a little boy?
I don't believe I ever said that to Detective Pillar.
Okay. Would you like to see your interview?
Sure. I believe that's a typo.
So what did you think that you said that that's a typo of?
In that context, I was describing the window breaking. Without listening to that conversation, I couldn't tell you what the final word I said was, but I'm pretty confident I did not describe seeing a little boy there.
Okay, so that isn't why you thought that it was a paintball gun, because there was a little boy there?
That is correct. I did not think it was a paintball gun because there was a little boy.
Okay. And so you didn't say you thought it was kids just being kids?
Well, that's different. That's completely different.
I'd have to review if there's a line where I talked about that.
Okay.
That is a completely different thing, him saying, maybe it was a boy that shot my window with a paintball gun. I think maybe that's what he probably said. He has to refresh his memory, even though I'm pretty sure that's what he was getting at. But
406 to 414. So you conveyed to Detective Pillar that you saw a little boy, you thought it was like a paintball gun or something?
I would object to
that
him
correct?
saying that. He did not say he said that.
Right, sustain.
So after reading that, do you recall saying something like that?
The context of what I was saying there was I was describing my thoughts that I was talking to the dispatcher when I mentioned the paintball gun. And the context that I was explaining was that my window was broken. And so without seeing a bullet, as I've described earlier, I thought possibly it could be a paintball gun.
Okay. And on your street that day, on October 2nd, were there kids on the street playing paintball?
No,
Oh. Were there kids anywhere walking around?
no.
And what time was this?
What time was what?
The time of this alleged shooting?
I can't say the exact time without looking at when I called 911 right after. So whatever time that was that I called 911.
Okay, so in the morning time, right?
Correct.
And it was like a bright sunny day that day?
Correct.
Okay. So you conveyed to him that you were thinking it was just kids being kids, you know, like a broken window?
I did not convey that to him, no.
You did not say that on line 416?
I conveyed to him what I was thinking when I was talking to the dispatcher.
So why were you telling that to Detective Pillar if you did not believe that?
I just explained why.
Which was what?
I was explaining my thoughts when I was talking to the dispatcher.
So he wasn't asking you a direct question, you were just going over what you said to the 911 dispatcher?
I was explaining in that context that you're referring to what I was thinking when I was talking to the dispatcher, when I said that I thought it might be a paintball gun.
But you had said before you were confused because you didn't even really know what was going on at that moment. Is that correct?
I would not say that's correct.
So you did not convey that maybe somebody really didn't shoot over here?
Shoot over here.
As I said, I was explaining to him in that context about why I had said to the dispatcher that I thought it might be a paintball gun.
But you didn't believe it was a paintball gun at that time?
Which time are you referring, when I'm talking to Detective Pillar or when I made the 911 call?
Both.
When I made the 911 call, I thought someone was shooting at me. But as I explained, I had the thought nothing had come through my window. So perhaps it was a paintball gun, which I shared with the 911 operator. And when I talked to Detective Pillar, I was certain that someone had shot at me. I could see the bullet hole in my car. And as soon as I saw that, I knew for certain that all of the other things made more sense. And that was exactly what happened.
Okay. So yesterday you talked about you kept driving, right? After
Yes.
you were shot at. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you went up to where the park was and pulled over. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you made a U-turn
Correct.
and went back to the house.
Correct.
So you didn't go around the block, but you went to the, just so I understand, you went to the pool, pulled over, turned around, and went straight back to the house.
It's a big loop. You can drive either way. I ended up driving the full loop. I think everybody has seen how those streets work. So
Correct.
I did a U-turn up by the park, and I came down around the other side and looped back.
Okay. So after the U-turn, you did the full loop around.
Yeah, I finished the loop.
Okay. That makes more sense to me now. Thank you. Then what? You drove back into the driveway? Is that correct? Did you go into the garage?
I did not go into the garage.
So you stayed out of in the driveway, is that correct?
I got out of my car, and like I said yesterday, it's a little bit hazy, but I waited and stayed on 911 until the police officer arrived.
Okay. Was your garage door open or closed?
As I explained, when you drive that Tesla, it automatically opens the door when you hit it inside of a certain range. It didn't trigger in the initial drive-through when I was shot at, but when I pulled in my driveway, it triggered, so the garage just automatically opens.
Okay. So when the shooting occurred, the garage door was not open, but after you came back around the loop and drove into your driveway, it did open that second time?
It opens the garage when you pull up, yes.
Okay. And you did not drive into the garage, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You stayed in the driveway.
Correct.
And did you stay in the exact same place where they took all the photos of the Tesla?
I put my keys up on the dashboard, and I didn't move the car until they were done.
Okay. And so we heard you on the 911 call where you stepped out and removed the window and then got back in. Is that correct?
Like I said, it's a little hazy. What happened is when you put that car into park, the door will automatically open. And the door automatically opened, the window fell, and from there I can't remember exactly what I was doing. I remember talking to the 911 operator. I may have walked a little bit towards the street a little or something, and then I just stood right there in the driveway and waited for the first officer to arrive.
Okay, so you were outside of your vehicle at that point when the window fell out?
I may have been. It's been 6 years, so I'm not 100% certain on that part of it.
Okay. But when you say that the window fell, did it fall to the ground or it just kind of crumbled on the door?
Well, it was shattered. So most of it you could see in that picture stayed together and fell. And then a lot of it fell all over my seat, all over me, into the door frame. I could hear it all fall down in there. It fell a little bit everywhere.
Okay, but it was removed from the Tesla over to the side. So did you pick it up and move it, or it fell out over where it fell?
That piece fell because you got to remember the door's swinging out. So it automatically opens itself. If there's no sensor, then it'll move further.
Okay, so the window fell onto the ground by itself without any assistance from you?
Yeah, I didn't want to cut myself.
Okay, and then the little glass shards came out as well at that time?
Yeah, they were all over.
Okay, so you never moved the window after it fell out, is that correct?
I didn't touch it.
Okay. So where we see it in the pictures, that's where it landed?
Most likely. I can't tell you for certain.
Okay. And you may have walked to the end of the driveway, is that that's what you're testifying to?
What I testified to was that I can't remember for certain, but I stayed on the phone and may have walked, may not have, I'm not certain.
Okay. You had testified yesterday that you thought that the 911 operator told you to stay in the vehicle and you were staying in the vehicle, but you had gotten out earlier. Is that correct?
And when I listened to that call, I didn't hear her tell me to stay in the vehicle. So I don't think she did, but maybe she did. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly.
I think that you conveyed that she had told you that. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So then that conveyance must have been wrong on that.
Okay. So did any of that glass cut you? How were you careful to get out of there without getting cut by the glass?
I can't say for certain. I just think that I would have been careful. I wouldn't want to get cut by glass.
So it fell, when the window fell out, the glass fell in towards you onto your lap, or how did that work?
No. The big piece of the glass fell outward, which you can see. And then, I can't tell you how everything else fell. I don't have like a perfect memory of that. Just fell.
Okay. When you stepped out of the vehicle, the glass that was on you, did it fall to the ground?
I can't say for certain.
Okay, now I'm confused once again. With each question, I'm trying to see like what is she getting at. The only thing I'm thinking she's saying now, and feel free to let me know if I'm wrong. I think she's trying to say you must have faked this because how did you not get cut by any of the glass? I'm thinking maybe that's her angle at this point. Who knows? She's just asking whatever at this point.
And when the police arrived, where were you located when they first drove up?
I believe I was located in my driveway or right near my driveway, and it was a woman who came.
Okay. And if you thought that you had just been shot at, were you not worried about standing there in the driveway where someone could drive by again?
The person that shot at me was in the Jeep, and I had seen them leave. Of course, I was scared for my life, but I was told to go back to my house, so that's where I went.
And I know it all happened quickly, but you were not worried about them maybe doing the loop and driving back around?
There's a lot of thoughts going through your mind when that happens.
Okay. And who arrived first? Who arrived first? Was it Officer Rob?
I can't tell you anybody's names.
Okay.
A woman,
Female officer.
female officer.
Okay. And she began questioning you, is that correct?
Yes.
And you began to tell her what had happened?
I did my best to explain what happened.
And she, at some point, had taken her pin and stuck it in the bullet hole? Is that correct?
I don't remember that.
And where were you standing when you were talking to Officer Rob?
At what point I talked to her for a little bit, so we moved around.
Were you on the driveway
We talked on the driveway,
initially?
I believe on the sidewalk, yeah.
Okay. So was she trying to get you out of the crime scene area where all the glass was?
I can't say what she was trying to do. I'm not a police officer.
When was it that you called your friends to come over?
After I saw the bullet hole, realized that I was really close to being shot. I think a little bit of shock kicked in. I remember feeling a little overwhelmed, and I remember they were very considerate. They, I think when my hands even started shaking, I remember. And then they told me, do I have someone that can be with me? And then my first thought was my dad, He's kind of my strength. And then after that, I thought of my friends. I have two really good friends, and that's what I remember is they said I could call them. And so they just came and tried to make things lighthearted, make things easier.
Right.
So is that Officer Rob that gave you the permission to call your friends?
I can't tell you for certain.
So was that after she finished questioning you on the events of the day?
I can't tell you for certain on that either. I don't know.
Was it before another officer arrived?
Like I said, I can't tell you for certain.
And how long did it take for your friends to show up?
I don't know. I probably was in a little bit of shock. I don't remember how long any of those things were.
Okay. And you had two different friends that showed up. Did they come together?
I think they came separate.
And at that point, when they arrived, was the crime scene tape already up?
I don't remember.
And so they would have had to park outside of the crime scene tape, or you don't know?
I'm sure they did. I don't know, though. I can't testify to that.
And so they stayed with you during that whole day?
Yeah, they were awesome. They dropped everything, and they just spent time with me.
Amazing friends, man.
And they stayed until the police left?
They did.
Did they stay after the police left?
Yeah, they did.
Nice.
You guys went into the house at that point?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did any of the offers enter the house? Any of the officers or any of the detectives?
You'd have to ask them. I think they said they had to clear the house, but I can't remember. Like I said, I think I was in a little bit of shock for a little bit there.
And do you know if any of the officers entered the garage?
I'm sure the people entered the garage, yes, at some point. I can't tell you when.
I'm still not sure about what her questions are leading up
And
to.
when you got on the phone and called your friends, did you call them or did you just text them?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
And who was it that came to help you that day, your friends?
My friend Mark Bell and my friend Chris Pierce.
Did either of them get interviewed by the police?
You'd have to ask the police. I'm not sure.
Did you see any of them getting interviewed by the police? Did the police ask them direct questions in front of you?
I can't recall.
So by the time they arrived, were you done with your interviews with police?
No.
So when you were having this interview with Detective Pillar, where were your friends?
When I left for my interview with Detective Pillar, we were all sitting in the shade over underneath a tree. I don't know where I was with Detective Pillar, so I don't know where they were at that time.
And where was your interview conducted with Detective Pillar?
Inside of his car.
In a police car?
Yeah. Okay.
And about how long do you think this interview lasted?
It's a long time ago. I don't know.
And then after you had your interview with Detective Pillar, you rejoined your friends?
I did.
Did you interview with anyone else besides Officer Rob and Detective Pillar?
Not that I can recall, but I may have talked to other officers. They might ask me questions.
So other officers were around there and they were asking you questions as well?
I didn't say that. I said I may have. I can't remember for certain.
So there were several people from the Gilbert Police Department in your vicinity, on your property?
It seemed there was a lot of police there because a shooting occurred, I assumed. I don't know the police process.
I'm just throwing my guesses out right now. I'm thinking she's focusing so much on the friends because she's trying to create some doubt there. Like, okay, they know his address and they showed up, even though I'm pretty sure they didn't know it beforehand, so that wouldn't make sense. But I think Lori's just trying to create some doubt. Like, well, you didn't see your friends before the shooting, so how do you know where exactly they were? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving Lori too much credit. I don't know.
But you don't remember anybody else asking you any specific questions. Is that correct?
I don't remember any questions that anybody specifically asked, and I don't remember if they asked me questions or not.
Any follow-ups to what Officer Rob had talked to you about or anything?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Brandon, how many communications since October 2nd until now have you had with Detective Pillar?
I have no idea.
How many phone calls would you say over the last 5.5 years?
No idea.
More than 10?
I'm sure more than 10, yes.
More than 20?
Like I said, I couldn't testify to the exact number, so I have no idea.
A lot?
I talked to him about my case.
More than 100?
I honestly can't tell you. I have never looked to try and figure it out.
Okay. How about text message communications with you and Detective Pillar? How many times have you communicated with him through text message in the last 5.5 years?
I've never counted, so I don't know.
More than 10?
I'm sure it's more than 10.
More than 100?
That I can't testify to. I don't know.
How about emails to Detective Pillar?
Same
How many
thing.
email communications have you had with him in the last 5 years?
I can't testify. I don't know.
More than 10?
That I'm not sure. I couldn't even tell you if I have had more than 10.
Brandon, I'm going to show you what's marked as potential exhibit 192, defense exhibit.
Can I see it first?
Yeah, I was going to say, doesn't she have to put that into like some kind of, she has to file it, right? I'm pretty sure this isn't the way to actually do it, but okay.
Do you recognize that as an email between you and Detective Pillar?
I can't tell you what this is. I can tell you what it says. I can't tell you if this is something that, where it came from. I don't have any reference on it.
Well, there you go.
And maybe we can,
Let's break for lunch. Is the party's good with resuming at 1:15?
Looks like that evidence is
All right, members
cooked.
of the jury, we're going to take our lunch break. Please remember the admonition will resume at 1:15 p.m. Thank you.
I'm so happy he said, yeah, I don't really recognize this. I'm not sure. Like, I can't really confirm if this is my email. Not too sure. So that evidence is out of the window. Jeez.
Please be seated. The jury is no longer present.
All right, let's see what the judge thinks about this.
All right, so I've reviewed Exhibit 192. The line of your questioning was to establish that this witness has had contact with Detective Pilar over the years and last 5 years. This particular email is actually, appears to be three separate emails in a string from February 12th of 2020. So what's the purpose of this? Yeah, are you trying to admit it? What are you,
I would like to ask him about it.
what's
can't-
relevant about it?
A lot of things, Your Honor.
What?
Judge, I can't hear her.
Please speak into the mic.
A lot of things are relevant to this. It's just relevant, you know? It's just very, very relevant.
It's relevant to his discussion with Detective Pillar from the October 2nd date until this date on February 12th.
What is relevant about it that is an issue for this jury to decide? That's what relevance means. It's something that this jury would either make something more or less probable for some fact that they need to decide.
It's relevant in the way that this email communicates that the information that was being given to the detectives was directly from Brandon Boudreaux.
I know, but what in the content of that email is relevant for this case?
the fact that the last line,
Did I miss something? What's the last line?
See it as well.
I think she literally just wants to prove, like, look, see, he was talking to the detective a bunch of times. I'm pretty sure that's all this is.
That's, okay, hold on. Make sure everyone can hear you and the court reporter can hear you.
I would have to ask to see that as well. I don't
So
know what she's
the
talking
last
about.
line was Detective Pillar writes, is it Pillar or Pillar?
Pillar like a pillar in a building.
Pillar. Detective Pillar writes, this information is requested so we can see if Melanie has any financial gain from your death, basically, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that
Are you
creates
serious?
motive for Melanie. It seems like I guess it's fair area for him to talk about in general, but it's also a fair area for you to talk to the detective about what areas they investigated. But let me hear the state's response. But as far as that particular email comes in, I mean, I suppose you could ask some questions about it, but let me hear from the state.
Judge, obviously that's a conglomeration of emails, so I don't know that that fully covers everything. Two, I guess the defendant has never raised a third-party defense. I'm not sure if she's trying to say that this was all Melanie Boudreaux, but that is actually an open investigation that is still ongoing. The state has, obviously in trial, referred to her as an active member of this conspiracy. So I'm not sure if she's trying to admit that or just question him if he was providing information to the police. But the last thing I will, again, just in terms of opening the door, is she's made a big deal about the number of calls and text messages. And as I've indicated, there is still an open investigation against Melanie Boudreaux. And so many of that information might relate to that case, or it might also relate to the Tammy Daybell case, because there was information about that, as well as the Charles Vallow case. So to infer that all of those conversations related solely to this defendant, this incident, October 2nd, is probably a little disingenuous.
We might be seeing Lori try to place all of this on her niece now at this point. I didn't even think about that. We may be seeing Lori take a turn here.
Were you intending to enter that as an exhibit, or just were you asked to provide information that Melanie might have a motive?
I would like to admit it, and I would like to question him on it as well, yes.
What is the bait page on
It's
that?
Bates 5465.
I don't know that there's anything in it that's particularly misleading or anything like that to the jury. I don't know how relevant it is, but I think to the extent that there may have been some questions about Melanie's participation and whether or not she had a motive are relevant. What's the state's response, I guess? I know she didn't notice third-party defense.
I guess I'm asking now, is she doing that? Obviously, I have a right to know before the trial ends if that's an active defense she's asking for.
I'm not, Your Honor. I'm trying to say the connection that I've been accused of with Melanie connects me to Melanie. So that's why I'm trying to establish how am I connected to this.
Wow.
I didn't have a financial gain here. This is the financial gain through Melanie. This is conversations between the detective and Brandon that I want to question him on. I'm not
Throwing the niece under the bus. What happened to that line of questioning before where, didn't you know that I was a mother figure to her? Didn't you understand that? What happened to all of that? It's just completely out the window now. That is insane. Crazy to hear this. I wonder how Melanie feels after. I'm so sure that Lori was the hand on the shoulder the entire time that was telling Melanie, yeah, this is the right course to take, you know. He has a high life insurance policy. You know, you can just go the route that I went with Charles. I'm so sure that she guided her along that path, and now look at what it's ultimately turned into. That is crazy.
trying to blame Melanie. That's my point.
I have not alleged a financial gain for the defendant, so
What was that? I'm sorry.
Said I have not alleged a financial gain. I've not alleged much of a motive because we are trying to keep out much of that. So I guess, again, if we're going to start going into motives, then we have prior incidents of the defendant having financial gain in the previous trial that we did here.
Very true.
So if we want to go into the whole overarching financial scheme and cult activities, then we can do that. But again, the state had decided not to bring in any of that. If we're going to do that, then obviously we'll change who all of our witnesses are.
All right, let me, rather than just make a
This is crazy.
knee-jerk ruling, I'll think about it. We'll take this up at about 110. So please be ready to go at 110. All right, thank you. All right, here's Exhibit 192. We're on the record.
Let's see what his decision is.
The jury is not present. In relation to Exhibit number 192 that we talked about before break, the defendant may ask the following question. You may want to write this down. In February of 2020, while this case was being investigated, did Detective Pillar ask you to provide any documentation which might support whether Melanie had a financial motive for your murder or death, however you want to phrase that?
Wow, this is super different. So the judge can actually give them questions. I've never seen anything like that before. That's actually really different from like the other trial that I was viewing.
The state may also ask follow-up questions on whether or not any financial motive existed, such as a life insurance policy. I don't know the answer to that, if she was the beneficiary of a life insurance policy. Additionally, the defendant has opened the door somewhat, and for now, the state may ask in redirect a question along the lines of all the communication you had with Detective Pillar in the last 5.5 years was not solely about this case, correct? Some of your communications with Detective Pillar were related to a separate investigation, correct? To the extent the door gets opened further than that, I guess depends on where the defendant goes for the rest of her cross.
Let's hope Lori takes it further.
I don't see any reason to actually introduce that Exhibit 192 because it has other information on there as well. So that's the ruling. And just to get ahead of the ball, when Detective Pillar eventually testifies, you would also be allowed to ask if he sought that type of information and why he would seek that type of information. All right, you want to go ahead and get ready at the podium? We'll bring the jury in. All right, please be seated. The jury is present. You can continue with your cross of this witness.
All right, here we go.
Mr. Boudreaux, in February of 2020, while this case was being investigated, did Detective Pillar ask you to provide any documentation to prove that Melanie, your ex-wife, had a financial gain at your death?
Yes.
And did you provide that information to him?
I believe I did.
How many documents would you say that was?
Can I get some more context around that?
Yes. So Detective Pillar asked you to provide him with some documentation of financial gain from your ex-wife Melanie. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you did provide to him some documentation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so what were those documents?
What did I provide to Detective Pillar about that?
Correct.
I had a life insurance policy. I provided him with that.
What else?
There you go.
I'm not sure there's anything else I provided him.
Okay, did you provide the rental agreement for Melanie's address?
Are you talking about on that specific day or?
Ever?
I can't say for certain that I did, but I may have. I believe I had it. I believe I helped her when we were signing that.
Okay. So did you provide your rental agreement with her, with him?
At some point, I believe I gave him my rental agreement for my property at 3875.
And did you provide information showing your financial shared accounts?
If he asked me for that, I would have provided it to him. I can't say for certain which accounts I gave him, but I'm sure if he asked, I would have given him any accounts he needed.
And you gave him the information, the contact information for your financial person at Chase Bank?
I would have, if he asked me for anything pertaining to the case, I would have given it to Detective Pillar so that he could investigate.
Okay, I was just going to say really quick, I love how he asked her to expand upon that. Can you just expand upon that a little bit? Because he was in here the entire time when the judge was going over the fact that, hey, if you ask certain questions and you go too far, it is going to open the door for them to talk about the previous trial. I'm not saying he did that on purpose, but that was hilarious that he immediately after she said, so did you provide any documentation? Could you maybe expand upon that and just tell me a little more about what you mean? Like, do tell, just go into a flow state and just talk about everything. You know, might as well. This is the place to do it. Nobody else can hear this.
Okay. So he could help demonstrate Melanie's financial gain if you were to pass away. Is that correct?
I didn't say that.
No, he asked you for that. Is that correct?
I can't recall him asking me that.
So he asked you for any documentation that would help him demonstrate financial gain for Melanie if you were to have died around October 2nd, 2019.
I can't recall if he asked for that specifically. If you're asking if I can recall whether or not I talked with him about the possibility that she had financial gain, I definitely talked with him about her having financial gain. If you're asking if I can recall the exact wording that he used, I can't tell you that I can confidently sit here and recall the exact wording.
Well, you looked at this exhibit, correct, a minute ago?
You showed me a document.
Would you like to look at it again?
If you're asking if you would like me to look at it, I can look at it.
Okay.
She's gonna do it. I mean, he told her the questions that she could ask, and she's going well beyond that.
Did that refresh your recollection of your email with Detective Pillar?
I definitely read what you shared with me, yes.
And he had asked you to provide documentation to demonstrate Melanie's financial gain in case you were to die on October 2nd, 2019?
He asked me if I could provide any documentation that could have showed that there was financial gain for her if I had died on October 2nd.
And you did provide the information to him, is that correct?
As I said, I can't recall exactly, but I'm sure I did.
And did you provide screenshots to him?
I'm going to object or ask for foundation of what? Screenshots.
Sustained, please lay more foundation.
Okay. Did you provide to Detective Pillar 6 screenshots in response to this email where he asks you for that documentation?
I gave Detective Pillar my phone, so they had literally every conversation I ever had. So I'm sure he would have had access to any conversation I'd had with someone.
Okay, and when was that you turned your phone over?
At the time of the shooting.
So on October 2nd?
Correct.
So in February of 2020, February 12th specifically of 2020, did you provide to Detective Pillar 6 screenshots of messages to him for this purpose of demonstrating Melanie's financial gain?
As I said, I had a lot of conversations with Detective Pillar. So if you're asking for one specific conversation, I can't tell you right now that I recall exactly what I would have given him in February of 2020.
Okay. Would you like to look at this?
If it would help, sure.
Okay.
Far on this.
Okay.
Oh, sidebar's over. Even though Lori has no idea how this process goes, you can tell by the way, you can see the back of her head as she's doing this constantly. She refuses to accept that she just can't bring certain evidence in because she has to talk about the pink pony.
The life insurance policy that you provided to Detective Pillar, was that an active policy?
As of the date that
As
I
of that-
provided to him, or as of the date of my,
As of October 2nd, 2018.
yes.
Okay. And did you provide more than one life policy to him?
No.
To Detective Pillar? Did Melanie have a life insurance policy?
Objection relevance.
Sustain. Well, are you asking if she had an insurance policy separate from this on him?
Correct.
I'll allow it. If he knows.
Not that I knew of.
Okay. But in your agreement, did you provide also a copy of your mediation agreement to Detective Pillar?
Yes, I did.
And in that agreement, Melanie was supposed to get a life insurance policy as well on herself as you, the beneficiary?
I'm going to object to relevance at this point.
Sustain.
Who was the beneficiary on the policy that you provided to Detective Pillar
On what date?
on October 2nd? Who was the beneficiary on October 2nd on your policy?
Melanie Boudreaux.
And did you change that beneficiary?
I could not. It's a whole life policy. It's not changeable without both parties.
It's almost as if she's working for the prosecution for Melanie's upcoming trial, even though there's no trial scheduled, but I'm so sure of it. Like, when you hear all of this stuff, how could she not get charged at some point? So good work by your aunt. She's bringing in some very important testimony that could be used. She's throwing Melanie under the bus right now.
And do you remember when you provided that to Detective Pillar?
I can't recall.
Did you provide any other financial information to Detective Pillar in regards to his email asking you for documentation?
Can you ask that question again?
Yes. Is there any other financial documentation that you provided to Detective Pillar after he requested it in the email to you?
Are you speaking like on that specific date or
Anytime
at any point
after.
in the future?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'm going to object again as to extrinsic.
Sustain.
Brandon, did you meet with the prosecutor in preparation for this testimony?
Yes.
When was that?
I can't say which specific day, but I met a few weeks ago, 2 different times.
Every person that represents themselves goes this route with it, but okay. If you've seen these types of trials before, you know where she's going with it. Did they happen to tell you how to testify today? Is pretty much going that route.
2 times?
Yes.
How long each time would you say? Or how long was the first time?
A couple hours.
And how long was the second time?
A couple hours.
Did you review documents at that time?
Yes.
To refresh your recollection of things?
To the best I could, yes.
Did you view any of the financial documents that you provided to police during those interviews?
I did not.
What documents did you review in preparation for your testimony here today?
The ones that I can recall would be my 911 call and the conversation I had with Detective Pillar.
So your interview with Detective Pillar?
Yes, the one that I had with him in the car.
Okay. But not all of your conversations with Detective Pillar ever, right?
I don't even know how I would do that.
Okay.
Realistically, she should end this cross-exam. It's going to be a lot of Hail Marys thrown here.
You had mentioned in your testimony yesterday that the Tesla has a camera on it. Is that correct?
I don't know if I mentioned it in my testimony yesterday, but the Tesla does have a camera on it, correct?
On the front or the back, or how does that work?
They have cameras on the front and the back and on the sides.
So it goes like, so like a 360 degree view?
Depending on the Tesla, there's different cameras that they have, yes.
And were any of those retrieved, to your knowledge, from the Tesla, the cameras?
The model that I had was not one where it saved the recordings.
So it doesn't save any recordings at all?
It did not.
Okay. When you talk about where the Jeep Wrangler was located on October 2nd, you said it was nose to nose with the white van, is that correct?
Correct.
How close was that nose to nose, would you say?
To me, that means that they were basically touching.
Okay. And then you had stated that you kept going straight, is that correct, after the shot?
Correct.
And then the Jeep passed you, is that correct? At some point?
I had stated that I went straight. I went around the corner and I parked. And then the Jeep followed the path that I did and went past me. Went around the corner and then went down the other lane. Without looking at a map, I can't tell you what the name of that street was.
Okay. And so when it passed you, did you look over at the Jeep?
I saw the Jeep in my rearview mirror initially, and then I looked over to the right as it drove off down the road.
And did you see the driver of the Jeep?
I could not identify the driver.
And you have seen Alex Cox before, correct?
I couldn't see anyone.
But you have seen Alex Cox before, correct?
Yes.
And you have been with him on many occasions. You know what he looks like, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you would recognize him if you had seen him, is that correct?
If I had seen him, I would recognize him.
So when you were looking, you said you first saw him in your rearview mirror. You saw the Jeep coming up towards you when you were pulled over, is that correct?
Correct.
And so you didn't see the driver at that time either in your rearview mirror?
That is correct.
Okay. You couldn't tell who was driving?
That is correct.
Not if it was a man or a woman?
That is correct.
I don't know if you noticed this, but Lori just referred to the driver as a him. Now, I may be just thinking too far into it. She may just be talking, and that's not really how she means it. But I feel like sometimes while she's doing this, she gets a little too comfortable, and she says things that just really prove that she 100% did all the things she's being accused of. I'm going to go back a little bit, and she said, so after you parked the car, you saw him driving or something like that. I feel like I'm kind of looking too deep into it, but I'm just going to let you hear it.
When you were looking, you said you first saw him in your rearview mirror. You saw the Jeep coming up towards you when you were pulled over. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so you didn't see the driver at that time either in your rearview mirror?
That is correct.
Okay. You couldn't tell who was driving?
That is correct.
Not if it was a man or a woman?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's definitely a reach by me. That's definitely a reach, sorry.
Okay. So you didn't see the driver at all?
That is correct.
And then you didn't see the plate number either as well, is that correct?
I did not give them the plate number, no.
And you had your phone in your hand, or you did not?
Can you give me some more context? When are you speaking of?
When the Jeep passed you, where did you have your phone in your hand?
My phone was connected to my speakers. So I was talking over the speakers, but I believe the phone was in my hand.
And like you didn't take a picture of the Jeep as it passed or the license plate or anything?
I did not.
Did you yourself personally take pictures of the Tesla after the incident?
Can you give me some context of when?
Anytime after the alleged shooting?
I sold the car, so I took a lot of pictures of it before I sold it. So, yes, I did.
Did you take pictures of it immediately after?
Can you give me a definition of like when immediately is?
Like, did you take pictures of it showing the window missing?
At some point, I took a picture of my car. I can't tell you when specifically, with it missing a window.
And did you take pictures of the bullet hole?
At some point, I may have. I don't think I did, though.
Did you send those pictures to anyone?
I may have. I don't remember.
Did you send those pictures to your dad?
If I took a picture of my car, I may have sent a picture to my dad. It's not something that I recall off the top of my head.
Did you send pictures to the two friends that were there with you?
Object to relevance.
Sustained.
No relevance at all.
How long was it before you sold your Tesla after October 2nd?
I couldn't say. I gave it to the police. They had it for a while to run tests and do whatever they needed to do. Then when it was returned, I took it to a dealership to get it repaired. And after that, at some point, it was sold.
So did they repair it? They were able to repair everything?
They were.
Did they
Nice.
have to replace the whole door?
I don't know what all they had to do. I just paid for it after it was done.
So the police did not ask you to turn the car over to them, is that correct?
That is incorrect. I turned it over to them.
When did the police have the car?
As soon as the shooting happened, I gave it to them, and they kept it. I can't remember when they gave it back to me, but they gave it back to me later.
So days or weeks or months or how long after?
Like I said, I don't know specifically, but I would guess it was a couple weeks if I remember correctly.
Okay. So if that happened on October 2nd, then you had it back maybe before the end of October?
I did have it back before the end of October, I believe.
Okay. And was it the same as when they took it? Was it intact the same way, the window missing and the bullet hole?
I mean, I can't say if I would believe that whatever tests they did were not intrusive. I don't know if they did anything, but as far as the car being the same, it looked the same to me.
Okay. And then then you sent it to get repaired after you got it back.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And then how long did it take them to repair that car?
I can't recall.
Like weeks or days?
Like I said, I can't recall. I can't tell you a definitive time.
Do you have to have a rental car during that time?
I borrowed a friend's car.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Some of these questions may have came from legal counsel who had like a general game plan of what these questions should lead up to. And they probably briefed Lori like, okay, these are the setup, the foundational questions. And then eventually this is what you're really going to get at. But then she just jumps back to the pink pony or just something random that has nothing to do with proving her innocence. But I really can't tell what this is leading up to. None of these questions have any relevance to proving she didn't do this.
At what point did you decide that the Jeep was gray and not puke green or camo green?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
Did you provide information to the Gilbert Police Department that it was a gray Jeep?
I believe I referred to it as several different colors throughout conversations I had with law enforcement.
Okay. And where did you get your information from the VIN number that it was actually a gray Jeep?
I did not.
Where did you get the information that it was a gray Jeep?
From memory?
Later at some point, I decided I thought maybe it was gray.
Later at what point?
I can't say for certain.
A month later?
To
2 days
to me,
later?
puke green and gray are very similar in color. I'd identify both of them very similar.
They definitely are, especially when you look at the image of that Jeep. Like, I could see how he would maybe go one or the other.
But when did you change your mind from puke green or olive green to gray?
Like I said, I didn't say that I changed my mind.
So in all the reports, they say a gray Jeep. No one ever says a green Jeep. So that information did not come from you?
I can't say what the reports say. I can only share what I can testify to, which is that to me those colors are very similar or the same.
So with you having access to the VIN number of a particular Jeep, would it give you the color of the car?
I never looked at it, so I can't tell you.
You never looked up that VIN number?
I never looked to see if it gave me a color.
Do you know if that's a thing that you can look up the VIN number and see the make and model and color of a car?
I can't testify to the ability to look that up. That's not something I'm an expert in.
And you've never done that?
Oh my God.
Tried to look up a car color by the VIN number.
No, that, you've never looked up that specific VIN number to that Jeep. Is that what you're testifying to today?
Can you give me some context?
Never said that.
Yes. So after October 2nd, did you ever look up the VIN number that you had access to of the Jeep Wrangler that was in my household?
I don't think I did. I don't have a recollection of it.
So did you just provide the VIN number to Detective Pillar?
Yes.
And when did you provide the VIN number of my vehicle to Detective Pillar?
I think on October 2nd. I'm not certain, but I think that's when I gave to him.
So on this day, on October 2nd, you provided that VIN number to the detective?
I think at some point, if I recall correctly, I remembered that I had it, so I got it and sent it to him just to make sure that he had it.
Every single piece of evidence just points directly. You attempted to murder somebody that had the VIN number to your vehicle, that fully recognizes who you are, that knows what your vehicle looks like, saw that there's a Texas license plate, and knew, wow, Lori Vallow Daybell, she lived in Texas for some time. She also killed her husband, and I almost got, things are really lining up to point directly.
So at that point, even though you thought it was a puke green or olive Jeep, he would have access to the information that it was actually a gray Jeep that was in my family household. Is that correct?
I can't testify what he had access to.
But you provided him with that information that very day?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
Open and shut case.
Brandon, did you know of Alex being an avid shooter?
I knew that Alex liked to shoot guns.
Did you know that Alex liked to frequent the shooting range?
I didn't talk to Alex a lot about that, so I can't testify whether he liked to or not liked to.
But you knew through the family that he did go to the range a lot?
I mean, I can't testify.
Asked and answered.
Like I said, I can't testify to whether or not I knew that he liked to go to the gun range.
Did you ever go to the gun range where he was there?
I did not.
Did you ever go to the gun range and anyone in my immediate family with them?
Can you define your immediate family?
Well, my brothers, sisters.
I don't recall going to the gun range with your brothers or sisters.
Did you ever go to the gun range?
Can you object to relevance?
None whatsoever.
Why is it relevant if he went to the gun range?
Do you own a gun, Mr. Boudreaux?
I guess it's sustained.
I'm sorry, did she just ignore the judge who's going to hand you your sentence? Like, this is what I mean. Literally just ignore the person who will be handing her that inevitable, someone in the comments said she'll probably get around 15 to 25 years on top of everything that she's done. We're already seeing a bit of rage here simply because they're questioning why she would even ask this question. Why does it matter if he went to a gun range? Okay.
Overruled, he can answer.
I do own guns now, yes.
Did you own a gun on October 2nd?
I did not own a gun on October 2nd.
You did not have any kind of gun in your possession on October 2nd?
I did not.
Did Melanie own a gun?
She did.
It was registered to Melanie, not to you?
She bought it, correct.
Okay. When you say that you provided the VIN number to Detective Pillar, was that later in the day after the police had already left, or was it while he was still at the scene?
I believe it was after he left, but I'm not certain.
So how would you have gotten him that information?
Would have probably been through one of my friend's phones because he took my phone when he left.
So would it have been an email or a text message?
I believe it was a phone call,
A phone call.
but I'm not certain, like I said.
And at that time, you had handed over your phone to Detective Pillar?
Yes.
When did you get your phone back?
it was late that night. I believe he had to give it to somebody who, I'm not a police officer, so I'm going to probably say this wrong, but they had to copy everything off of it, and it takes however long it takes. And so I turned it over, and then I just waited until that was done. And apparently I had a lot of stuff on that phone, so it took a long time.
A long time, meaning a day, 2 days, 6 days?
I think he's already testified that night.
Sustained.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You had it back that night.
I actually, as I think about it, it may have even been in the morning that I went back and picked it up.
Okay.
I'm not certain, though. It was either that late that night or it might have been in that morning, because I think I didn't have my phone that night.
Okay. Did you go buy another phone in the meantime?
No.
You just waited for it to be returned to you?
Yeah, it seemed like the most logical thing to do.
I can't stop chuckling at this point at some of these questions. She's asking certain questions like over and over. You did get the phone back. And when was that? So the phone was returned to you, and then he's just saying, yeah, it seemed like the logical thing to do to just get it, wait to get it back. I'm sorry, it's late at night, so I'm laughing a little bit easier at some of this stuff.
Did Melanie provide information to you that she was going to be out of town that weekend before October 2nd?
She did.
Which is strange.
And was that the first time that that weekend of October 2nd, or those weekdays, I guess it was weekdays at that point, is that the first time that you activated the mediation agreement where the children were with you at the new house?
We were following our mediated agreement throughout the summer. However, that was the first time that I had a space where we both felt like the kids could move freely and be kids. So it was the first time that they got to come and spend time and enjoy it. They previously had stayed at my house, but I had to be very careful. It's an expensive house, and it had to be show ready. Someone could come at any time.
So what day was it that the kids started being with you on your visitation before October 2nd? Was it the 1st and the 2nd, something?
No, it would have happened the day that she left, I believe. I mean, I haven't reviewed this, and it's been a long time, so I believe it would have been like a Thursday or Friday that I got the kids, and I had them over the weekend, and then until I did the drop-off on October 2nd.
And what day of the week was October 2nd? I'm not sure I know. Do you remember?
I believe it would have been a Wednesday based off of our parenting schedule.
Okay. So on Wednesday's the day that you would have turned the kids over, they'd have gone to school and Melanie would have picked them up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that morning, had you talked to Melanie in the morning before school at all?
She and I only communicated through text.
Did you communicate with her through text that morning before school?
I texted her to let her know that I was dropping the kids off.
And then you had to have some kind of text messaging to let her know you were there to drop off Breeze, right?
Correct.
And you met at the park for that, is that correct?
Correct.
And then you went straight to the gym after dropping off Blake, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's about how far from Melanie's house to the EOS gym?
5 or 10 minute drive.
And then how far is that to your residence from the EOS gym?
5 or 10 minute drive.
So when you were driving down your street, when you turned onto your street, did you see anyone else out in the neighborhood?
I did not.
She might go back to the did you see kids question.
Or anything that you noticed?
Not that I noticed.
And when you drove away over by the pool area, was there anyone out in that location?
Not that I noticed.
How many cars would you say were parked on your street, on the Phelps Street, that morning?
There were 2 that I noticed. I couldn't tell you how many other cars were parked on the street.
She's grasping at literally anything.
But it's kind of a
Were there other
Crowded
Jeeps?
street, so people do park on the street there that live in that neighborhood. Is that correct?
I have never testified to that. I can't recall.
And you had lived into this same neighborhood previously, is that correct?
Not this portion of the neighborhood, no.
Well, one neighborhood over on the same street, right?
I did live on a previously I did live on the neighborhood over on the same street.
Right. So you're familiar with that neighborhood anyway, even though you only lived at this house for a short time, is that correct?
I would not agree with that. This is a different section I didn't go to.
Because there's no availability to go from that neighborhood to that neighborhood, even though it's the same street, is that correct?
You can't drive. It's not connected in driving.
Correct. But literally, that house to that house is only like 10 houses away, really.
Can you give me context? Which houses are you talking about?
I'm just saying, your rental house from the house you owned earlier on Phelps Street is really only about 10 houses away, even though there's a divider and no access to drive straight over.
Yeah, I've never counted how many houses, but it is a short distance between those two houses.
And you guys lived in that house for a long time before you moved, right? A few years.
She's stuck again on one part. She even started laughing because she was so proud of herself in that moment. Like, I just checkmated you, dude. How do you not know this neighborhood? It's 10 houses over, even though you'd have no reason to come over here, but I caught you. Now she's gonna really stay on this point.
Brandon, when you were providing all of this information to Detective Pillar in regards to your relationship with Melanie, were you trying to have him charge Melanie with your murder?
Object to relevance.
Sustain.
With your murder, he's still alive.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No idea what that was. That last question, I knew a Hail Mary was on the way because when she stacked up the papers, she didn't have really anything in front of her anymore. All right, let's dismantle all of this randomness she threw out there.
I'm going to start by talking to you about June 25th, okay? Why did that date stick in your mind?
It was a painful date.
If you can get closer to you, Mike.
It was a
please.
painful date.
Why was it a painful day? Why did that stick in your mind?
My grandfather was someone who was really important to me, and I was dealing with, sudden loss is traumatic. So I was dealing with that, and my family is the most important thing in this world to me, and so the dissolving of my family was probably one of the most painful things that I've gone through as a person, and that date is the start of the dissolving of my family.
Okay. So when you are talking with Melanie, was the focus of that argument about your marriage?
Yes.
And during that argument, did you and Melanie discuss issues within your marriage?
Yes.
And during that, did Melanie bring up reasons why the marriage was over?
Yes.
Did any of those reasons involve things that Melanie claimed you did to her aunt, Lori Vallow?
Yes.
So one of the reasons why the marriage was going to end was because of this defendant, Lori Vallow, things that she said you had done to her.
Yes.
Did that include the idea that you had hacked into Lori Vallow's computer?
Yes.
Makes no
That's
sense.
something that Melanie was bringing up to you during this argument about the end of your marriage.
Yes.
Did the issue of you helping Charles Vallow try to take away Lori's temple recommend also come up?
Yes.
So again, your marriage and reasons why it's ending tied to Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Is that why you sent those text messages to Lori about the temple recommend, that you had nothing to do with trying to take that away?
Yes.
You told her that was a lie.
Yeah.
All because she thought she was going to lose her status, which she justifiably should have. When you hear the things that she was saying, that she doesn't have to repent and she's lived on multiple planets or something like that, yeah, she definitely should have.
During that argument, ultimately, did Melanie say that she just wanted to end the marriage?
Yes.
Prior to June 25th, did you think that you were about to get divorced?
No, I had no There was no thought in my mind that that was going to be an outcome.
And then all of a sudden on June 25th, you start hearing about things that you've done to Lori Vallow that is why your marriage should end.
Yes.
Was it your belief, based upon your conversations with Melanie and with Charles Vallow, that Lori Vallow was involved in causing your divorce?
Yes.
There it is.
I'm going to talk to you about your interview with Detective Pillar on October 2nd of 2019, okay? Have you tried to memorize your transcript?
No, we talked for a while, so it would be a lot to try to memorize. No.
When we met, you listened to it again.
Yes, that was the first time I had heard it.
You have been asked by the defendant to read various parts of your transcript. Are you having difficulty recalling what happened to you that day with the Jeep?
No.
Were you trying to verify the specific words that you were telling Detective Pillar during that interview?
Yeah, I think it's important for me to be honest and be thorough, so I wanted to make sure that I was thorough in what I was responding.
Right.
Can you tell us from your own memory what the Jeep looked like?
Yes.
What did it look like?
Like I described it that day, a puke green or a gray Jeep with no tire on the back, with a Texas plate.
Did you tell him that it was a Jeep Wrangler?
I did, yes.
How many doors did it have?
2-door.
That what you recall?
That's everything that I recall.
Is that what it was?
I believe that's what it is, yes.
And when you talk to us about what you saw happen, is that because you listened to an interview or your own independent memory of what happened?
Those are my memories.
So whether or not you used X word or Y word, do you remember that the back of the Jeep window lifted up and a rifle barrel came out and pointed at you and shot your car?
Yes, I'm certain that's what happened.
Yeah, that's the important part, I think. The most important part of all of this. There goes Lori's only lifeline. It's gone. All of those random little details that she was trying to catch him on, it's all out the window at this point. It's all gone. Her only path now is to a guilty sentence.
There were some questions about kids. You were given some portion of a transcript. At one point, are you talking to Detective Pillar about calling 911?
Yes, I was explaining the dispatcher.
When you were talking to the 911 operator, do you mention to her that you think maybe someone was using a paintball gun?
Yes, I did.
When your car was hit and a bullet didn't go through the window, were you trying to figure out how that was possible?
Yes.
Did you later realize that it wasn't a paintball gun that hit your car?
Yeah, as I stated, I was certain once I saw the bullet hole in my car that the same reason I called 911 originally, that someone had shot at me, and it was definitely a gun, and it was definitely, they were trying to kill me.
So why did you call 911?
Because I believe in following the law.
Did you think that you'd been shot?
Yes, and I wanted protection. I wanted to feel safe.
Okay. When you saw that bullet hole in your car and no paint on your car, what went through your head?
I think, like I said, it's a really scary thought because up until then, I think you want to feel safe. And so I was trying, my window was broken, but I didn't see a bullet hole. And I was trying to think of something to make myself feel maybe safer. And when I saw that, I knew that there was no other option than that someone just shot at me and they were meaning to kill me. There's no other logical explanation for why that would have happened.
Right.
When you were driving back to your house and from the pool area, you told us that you saw the Jeep going up Cole sort of in your direction initially, correct?
Correct.
And then you saw the Jeep turn right onto Waite?
Correct.
And you could see across that field, and then you saw it turn south onto Fisher?
Correct.
So you were asked about why would you return home? Did you actually see the Jeep sort of leave?
Yes, and that's why I turned around.
Did you in fact follow that same direction so you could see if the Jeep was still on Fisher?
Yes,
Did you see it on Fisher?
I did not.
When you turned onto Phelps, did you look down the street and see if you saw the Jeep?
I did not see it on Phelps.
So by then you knew the only other way it could go would be now into Fairview?
Correct. And I believe I told the person on dispatch that I had believed he went out onto Pecos.
And that's because that's the only way you can go from there, right?
Correct. I just wanted them to know there was only 2 exits.
When you got back into your driveway,
Zooming in on Lori.
911, right? We heard that.
I was, yes.
Were you thinking about, oh no, if the door opens, the glass might fall out?
No, I wasn't thinking about that.
Were you trying to talk with the 911 operator and keep yourself under control?
Yeah, I was trying to make sure that I gave them all the information they needed.
Lori's still pretending to be sick right now. I mean, she may actually be kind of sick, like a cold or something, but what she was pretending like she had, no, none of that. I think they had like a medical, I don't know, a nurse or something check her vitals and everything was normal.
Were you trying to watch and document how the glass might have fallen out of the window when the door opened?
No, I actually was surprised when it fell because it wasn't something I was expecting.
Same thing when you were up by the pool. Were you thinking rational enough as you're talking on the phone with the 911 operator about someone just shooting at you to think, oh, I should make sure that I take a photo of this Jeep?
Right.
No, if you recall, I was a little out of breath, and I was very nervous. That's a nerve-wracking experience.
Is that when we heard you actually almost like panting like you had been running?
Yeah, yes.
And do you wish you'd seen the driver?
Of course, I wish that my Tesla camera worked. I wish a lot of things.
But you didn't.
I did not.
You were asked a lot about this VIN for vehicles. When you are given a VIN number, does that mean you get to see the car? Does that have anything to do with a visual of the vehicle?
No, it's just a number that identifies cars.
So in your use of a VIN number to look up,
Lori is so upset right now because when she asked him about the VIN number thing, he gave her a little bit of the runaround on that. And then as soon as the prosecution asked, so how does a VIN number work, by the way? Does it give you this or that information? No, it doesn't. He just, and I don't blame him one bit.
car insurance, did you care the color or the accessories on a vehicle?
I mean, an insurance company might, but I mean, you have to think they had multiple cars. I had to take all those VIN numbers, put them in, and then you go run it through a software, and it tells you who's going to give them the best price. So I wouldn't have been paying much attention to any of those details. I can't even recall what any of them were on the cars.
So you're just putting in the VIN numbers to see who might pop up the best insurance rate.
Yes.
You were asked a lot about communications with Detective Pillar. Did you know him before this?
No, I met him that day.
Was he the assigned case agent for your case?
Yes, he was.
So that's the person you were supposed to communicate with about your case?
Yes.
You were asked about having a large amount of text messages or phone calls or emails with Detective Pillar over the last 5+ years. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that all of those communications that you have had with Detective Pillar over the last 5+ years were not just about this case?
That is correct.
Would it be fair to say that some of those communications that you have had with Detective Pillar over the last 5+ years were in relation to a completely separate investigation?
That is correct.
On October 2nd of 2019, did you tell Detective Pillar that you believed Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were involved or responsible for this shooting?
Yes, I did.
So this is before you had access to VIN numbers or anything else.
That's correct.
While you are still sitting there being told by the police not to leave, Detective Pillar comes over and takes you away from sitting under the shade, brings you to his car, and interviews you.
Yes.
And you tell him that.
Yes.
So even if Melanie had some financial gain in if you had died, did that change your opinion at all that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were involved in this shooting of you on October 2nd of 2019?
No.
Right.
I have no other questions.
Are there any questions
There you
for
have
this
it.
witness from any member of the jury? All right, seeing none, you can step down, sir.
Thank you.
Man, I keep forgetting the jury can ask questions. That is so different. There you have it. That is the tail end of the examination from the prosecution and then the entire cross-exam from Lori. She literally proved nothing at all. The prosecution should give her a fist bump because she literally did a portion of their job, you know, just helping them out, being a pal, as Lori likes to do. And really, when Melanie's trial comes up, really, oh man, she really sealed the deal here. Melanie had a lot to do with this. No, but in all seriousness, I feel really bad for Brandon. He has been through so much in the past 6 years, pretty much. It's sad because there are children involved, you know, like with his ex-wife being investigated, and you don't know what's going to happen with that. If she ends up getting charged, she's going to more than likely do prison time. So the amount of stress that's going to put on the kids and him who looks after the kid, it's wild. So I feel really bad about all that stuff. There you have it. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you did something good for somebody today. Hope somebody did something good for you. And I will catch you all in the next one.